It is your PrisonPlanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. This is going to be another incredibly important jam-packed transmission, so please strap yourselves in. It is Thursday, the 20th day of June, 2013. Now, tomorrow I was going to take off on the radio broadcast and have David Knight sit in because he does a great job with a bunch of important, informative guests, and he's still doing that tomorrow. Because I'm having to take off some days, quite frankly, just to get Obama Deception 2 codified and rolling and done. It's going to blow away the first installment of it, the film seen over 40 million times online for free. I mean, I really want to go after the establishment with this one. And then right in our lap falls a huge, huge movie star who's not normally politically outspoken. I'll just leave it at that. Bigger than Charlie Sheen, just to put it to you that way. So that's either going to happen today or tomorrow. And if they want it tomorrow, I'm just going to stay like it is and let Knight do the interview. But again, we don't really chase movie stars around here. It's just that when they, are politically exposing things that are important, especially when they don't do a lot of that, it is certainly something that piques the interest a bit. I get a couple of butterflies. Thinking about it, of course, I get butterflies when I see one of our articles linked up on drudgereport.com. And Drudge has linked, this is obviously very important, to one of the main Russian ministers calling for a UN-run internet kill switch. So that is all coming up today. Speaking of David Knight, in the next segment, he's going to be in studio with us on Michael Hastings, the award-winning associate editor over at Rolling Stone magazine, who's broken a bunch of big Pentagon stories, muckraking stories. His car blew up 2 days ago, and it blew up Tuesday. It wasn't in the news till Wednesday, and the police instantly said no foul play, which is always suspicious. The engine got blown down the road. Witnesses said the car caught on fire and blew up driving down the street. And the police are saying the opposite, of course. I mean, they can gun you down now where they have assassins, and they'll say you fell and hit your head like Benazir Bhutto on tape being machine gunned, and they said she hit her head. And there's footage of her was in the front just being sprayed with bullets. And they're like, oh, she bumped her head. I guess Kennedy bumped his head 50 years ago in Dealey Plaza. Or a gnat flew over, it was a convertible, and hit him in the head and blew his head off. And if you don't believe that, you're a conspiracy theorist. I mean, nowadays they would just say, the president hit his head today, boom, head blows off. The car, boom, blows up. And so before it was in the main news, I was reading, okay, his car ran into a tree, he's dead. And I thought on air, you had to dig. The fact you had to dig, I imaged like his car blowing up. And thinking, if the car blew up or something, they might have killed him. But I go, people die in car wrecks. It's the #1 cause of death under the age of about 55. So I said, maybe he just did die. And then sure enough, he had a big story on CIA corruption coming out. He was in contact with WikiLeaks and was about to do a big data dump. And the official WikiLeaks has come out and said they talked to him 1 hour before his car blew up. And he said, the FBI's after me. They're investigating me. We've got to hurry up and get this done. Well, they got you done. The FBI should have just brought him in for questioning and shot him in the top of the head like they did the guy that knew the Zarnev brothers. I mean, that's the new thing. No judge, no jury. No, it's just the FBI comes to talk to you. You shoot yourself in the top of the head. Bada beep, bada boop, Oh, what happened to Michael Hastings? Oh, you won't see him no more. His car blew up. But the police say no foul play, kind of like when they torched Dorner's cabin. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. We're here live, back weeknight, 7 o'clock Central, with InfoWars Nightly News. Find all the details at InfoWars.com/show. Big broadcast lined up today. We're probably, well, they say it's set. We're going to have a big Hollywood movie star on for about 30 minutes in the third hour, getting into some political issues that should be quite interesting. I'll just leave it at that, see if it happens. It fell in our lap this morning. So we'll see what unfolds on that front. Always surprises here on the broadcast. The Gang of Eight, the El Jefes, say they have a Senate agreement to bolster border security. The border is wide open, ladies and gentlemen, wide open. I've been down there. I've been all over it. I've been the border in California, Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, you name it. It is wide open. The illegals walk right by. The Border Patrol will just arrest a few a day. For PR purposes, they're ordered not to stop the illegals. Obama has already legalized all the illegals by fiat because that's what the establishment wants, to drive down wages and create a new voting bloc that's pro-tyranny. So we're going to be getting into that situation. I think it's newsworthy that Ron Paul was on yesterday and said he would not vote for this bill. But Rand Paul's been making noises like he is. And I understand Rand Paul's a hardcore libertarian, and I respect a lot of that. But you can't if they're all getting free welfare like Ron Paul said. It just doesn't work. I can't go to Mexico and get all this free stuff. So we're going to be getting into that. Huge NSA developments, huge police state developments, huge Google developments. It's all coming up today. And we're going to be taking your phone calls as well coming up in the second hour. But right now, I want to talk about the NDAA and the fact that the Pentagon is on record, and Israel and other countries are on record saying they'll kill any foreign national in their own country anytime they want, anywhere. Our so-called government goes around the world violating the Geneva Convention, international law, and our own law, bombing sometimes entire buildings or whole villages just to supposedly get one guy they claim is a terrorist, while they publicly run the majority of al-Qaeda worldwide. So it's a complete oxymoron. Our lives are seen not as cheap, but actually as garbage to be taken to the curb. And there's always been political assassination throughout history. And the more corrupt a nation is, the more assassination type garbage you're going to have going on. And the naivete of the public is what is allowing this to go on. Remember Dorner, the supposed cop who was running around shooting people in Southern California. Who knows if that's even true? I don't know if it's true because they lie so much. And they were shooting up innocent people's cars that didn't even, look like him, white women. I mean, he's a black guy. This is the type of craziness. And then the police say on 6 different radios, we're going to burn him down. Okay, burn that cabin down, bring in the fire, got it set, it's burning, good job, we burn him down. And then they said, oh, we didn't say that. Oh, we did, but we didn't mean burn him down. And that sets the precedent to sit there and burn somebody up in a house and say we're going to burn it down, and then burn it down, and then stand back while it burns down, and then say we didn't burn it down. And there's so many cases. Pat Tillman says, I'm going to come home and talk about how we're growing opium over here and actually run al-Qaeda and the Taliban. It's all fake. I came over here to help my brother. I gave up a $7 million contract. He wrote these letters back to family. I've talked to his brother. He goes, I'm coming back going public. And they're like, no, you're not. Well, how do we recycle this guy? Well, we claim he charged a hill fighting al-Qaeda and we kill him. And they shot him and he fell down behind a rock. And they came over and in front of some of the rest of the squad that had Pentagon hitmen inserted, that they were able to then testify. And the coroner came out and said that Pat Tillman was murdered. The Army colonel would not lie. He said he was shot at a few feet away with a triple burst right across the forehead. And they shot him, and then from 100 yards away, they came up. He got up and said, I'm Pat Tillman. They shot at him again. He fell down. He said, what are you doing? And they came up, and they executed him. And that all came out. They executed him, but then said he died battling al-Qaeda. They blew up 23 Navy SEALs of SEAL Team 6 that were in on the fake raid. No one on the ship, they've now testified, saw the body of bin Laden thrown in. It's all fake, folks. Now, 2 of the FBI agents that arrested the younger of the Boston bombing patsies, they fall out of a helicopter and die. More SEAL Team 6 fall out of a helicopter and die. They're killing them all. Then the friend of the brothers who was telling people it was all fake and staged, the FBI goes to question him. He says they're coming to kill me, and then they shoot him in the top of the head. And then say, oh, we were injured, and it turns out they weren't injured. He yelled at them, so they shot him in the top of the head. They don't even hide it now. They could come here, say I yelled at them, I probably will yell at them, and shoot me in the top of the head. And folks, if they do, they murdered me, okay? And most of you know this. You know, when I was at the BBC a few weeks ago, the Times of London writer, after I had debated him on air, as I'm walking out, I say, look, the NSA is real. That, you know, they call my house up sometimes and tell me what I've been talking about on the phone, so I know it's them, and then threaten me. And he goes, well, you scare people. You know, you basically deserve it. I mean, there wasn't even off record a denial of all this. The Esquire writer, whose dad was a famous CIA section chief over South Vietnam and killed Viet Dinh. This is all on record. You know, he told me, well, you scare the government. He's got a big, probably hit piece coming out. We'll see. He's a famous profiler. He doesn't usually do hit pieces. Did the definitive Charlton Heston with him right before he died, all of it. Hundreds of big pieces. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. The point is, folks, they're assassinating my character in the media right now. And if they can do that, then they can kill me. And I'm not saying that people with Esquire are even conscious of that, or the guy with the Times of London. It's just that the attitude is they're with the system and I'm a scary guy. So, you know, whatever happens, happens. Because the government's building a better world doing this good thing. Now enter the new article at Infowars.com. Evidence indicates Michael Hastings was assassinated. This is the associate editor of Rolling Stone. Michael Hastings, he brought down McChrystal, who was embedded in black ops and CIA operations in Afghanistan and in Iraq. This guy knew a lot of secrets. And he was reportedly, this is now confirmed, doing an in-depth expose that would blow the CIA wide open, is what he told WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks said they talked to him. This is all confirmed. The official WikiLeaks, 1 hour before his car blew up driving down the road. And he said, the FBI's investigating me. We've got to get this story going quick here. He was getting info from WikiLeaks. And then his car, the witnesses, multiple witnesses said, was driving along and caught on fire and blew up. And the engine's down the street, folks. You don't hit and then have the engine go past the tree down the street. And you have the police immediately saying no foul play. And then it didn't get any coverage in the media. Buried. Took a day for them to bury. Oh, by the way, the car burned up. And then you think about the most, decorated Navy SEAL sniper in the last 50 years. Chris Kyle is being sued for what's clearly a psyop against Ventura. And then some wind-up toy comes and guns him down at a shooting range, a private shooting range. It's actually a resort up outside Dallas. And folks, there's so many of these deaths. I talked to Gary Webb, Pulitzer Prize winner, for his Dark Alliance book exposing CIA drug trafficking. They tried to discredit him, said he'd been exposed. None of it was true. He had a new book coming out, and he was going to come on my show. I talked to him a few months before he died. And I've talked to his friends that talked to him weeks before. He moved his kids out of his house because special forces would break into it. He'd pull into home. They wanted him to see it. And they'd be sliding down the drainage pipes on his two-story house, digging through his house. So he moved his kids out with his ex-wife, moved into another place, and they came and shot him twice in the back of the head. And the police, again, instantly said that it was a suicide. That's for the telltale sign. Instantly. Breitbart. Oh, well, Breitbart had health issues. They always tailor it to look like what happened. He was at a bar with a bunch of people, folks. The police instantly said before 1 hour, 45 minutes after he was announced dead on arrival basically at the hospital, the police said no foul play. That's always the telltale sign. They're in on it. They've been given the order, shut this down. Same things with Hastings. We're going to come back for the next couple segments with an in-depth expose on this with the actual FEMA and Department of Transportation numbers on 2% of people die in a car fire. 2%. My dad was in a car fire with my sister, had a Volkswagen that the gasoline hose came off when I was in high school. Big fire in the back. They got out. Car burnt completely down before the fire department got there. 2%, 98% of people don't get killed in a car fire. And his car, again, they said hit a tree and then caught on fire. The witnesses say it's driving down the road and explodes into flames. When you really want to get rid of evidence, ladies and gentlemen, they've got little chip computer programs they can slap right on a car that will then remote control them with their electronic system with the cars made in the last decade. This is how the CIA does it. This has been declassified. They put you in a car and then remote control it and then blow it up to get rid of the fact they already killed you. Because people survive car bombs sometimes as well. If it's not shaped just right. That's why they also, even if he was alive, like to go with explosive fire bombs because they also tend to burn the person up. And I would give it, my gut is 98% chance they killed him. 98% chance. And again, yesterday I said, we don't know. May have just died in a car wreck. And then sure enough, he's coming out with a big story on the CIA. He tells WikiLeaks that basically the FBI's after him. Why didn't the FBI just go to his house, tie him up, shoot him on the top of the head like they normally do? That's all it is the mafia. We have a mafia government in this country right now. And you better be praying for InfoWars and yours truly. Because let me tell you something. They've had many discussions about killing me. You can absolutely bet your bottom dollar. We'll be right back. Alex Jones here, back live. We're going to get into a special report now, the evidence that Michael Hastings was killed. And now the media will go along when they burn down a cabin with somebody in it, when they shoot somebody in the top of the head during questioning at their house. It's not being questioned. And that's when you go into a real tyranny. They'll start killing thousands of people. They'll start arresting people. And at that point, media and journalists have to start taking precautions to protect ourselves. And then if it goes too far, things go on the offense. That's the only way to stop things like this. And they want to start a war. They want to have a secret war against journalists. They've been having one with the whistleblowers, all of it. I mean, if they kill me, folks, you know who did it, and you know what to do. Just going to leave it at that. Now, David Knight, you're here with us. One main reason they haven't killed me yet, and they've beat me up and threatened to kill me plenty of times, is they know if they kill us, I have a media organization left behind. That's why you're here, buddy. I've told the crew that privately. You're here, so if they kill me, it continues on. And I want justice. I want reporters there. If they blow me up, they put me in a room with a hooker. You guys work with me. You know I don't do that stuff.
That's right.
They killed me.
Yeah, right.
They killed me, period. I don't do drugs, none of it. So bottom line, if this happens, they killed me. This is so obvious. We've got newscasts that are local, but not on the national news, where explosion, engine flies down the road. I mean, this is incredible. We're going to get to that. This is a short segment. We're going to have you in the long segment coming up. This is the larger subject of political assassination. But, I mean, this thing absolutely stinks to high heaven.
You know, last night when I was getting ready to do the nightly news, I started looking at this, and I didn't even get into why this might happen. I didn't even get into the conspiracy theory aspect of it. I'm just looking at this as an accident, and it made absolutely no sense to me. You know, first you hear, oh, it's a fiery crash, high-speed crash. He hits into a tree, and the car catches on fire and burns. That's the way people typically die in a fiery crash. They get pinned in a car that then is somehow compromised mechanically. A fire starts, they can't get out, and they die. That's not what happened here. If you look at the eyewitness report, the only one they've got is a guy named Luis Cortez. And he says he's driving down the road, sees a car coming at him at high speed, and it jackknifes. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, because jackknifing is typically what you're talking about a truck doing, this articulated semi-trailer. But he said jackknife and pieces flew everywhere. Then you look at the report.
That's an explosion.
Yeah, it's an explosion. If you look at the report from the people that were there, they said that it sounded like a bomb, shook their whole house, rattled their windows. And then another guy points to the engine that he said flew 50 to 60 yards down from the point that it had stopped. And it makes absolutely no sense that an engine is going to fly out of a car at a right angle to the point that it's going when it hits a tree. Then if you look carefully at the pictures, you see that the car is not really crashed. It came to rest up against a tree.
Yeah, it's not even really run into the tree. It's up against it.
Yeah, it's up against it. It's kind of beside it. You can actually
see the car's exploded. The engine's flown down the road.
And you can see the nose, what's left of the frame of the car, sticking out beyond the tree. So it's kind of like it's beside the tree after the fire is out. You can see this in this picture from the LA Times. And the nose of the car appears to be sticking out from beyond the tree. The fire seems to be concentrated around the passenger area, but there's absolutely no way that the car is going to veer off to the left or to the right. And
well, I've seen 100 photos of car bombs. That's what they look like.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a tremendous impact there. But the car was not compromised, as you would expect when it hits a tree. And the fact that the engine flew down the road, and the fact that this one person who saw it said the pieces went everywhere. I mean, that tells you that it blew up while it was going down the road. It did not hit a tree, catch on fire, and then...
We're going to get more into this and get into the statistics, but tell people about this clip.
This clip this is from the Nightly News. So we had this last night. It was a local news story that had this on there, and you'll hear the eyewitnesses' reports on here. Let's take a look at that clip.
Rolling Stone magazine called Michael Hastings a fearless journalist who refused to cozy up to power. His death at 33 came by way of a fire-fueled and explosive crash.
It sounded like a bomb went off in the middle of the night. My house shook. The windows were rattling.
I couldn't have written a scene like this for a movie where the engine flies from the car, which was about, I don't know, 50, 60 yards up, right down here to this telephone pole.
Unbelievable. And in the national news, it's no foul play, ran into a tree. They blew that car up. Maybe we should say a car crashed into the Oklahoma City building.
Yeah. Right.
A car did. You know.
Well, and when you look at that picture, the engine doesn't look like it's on fire, right?
No, it's been blown out.
It's been blown out, and it looks like it's going back part of the transmission there. You see the alternator.
Well, you're an engineer, but you notice it's all aiming back from its trajectory being blown out.
Well, you're not gonna send the engine down the road at a right angle to the point at which it hits a tree, even if it hit the tree. But when you look at the pictures again, you don't see the body being smashed up against a tree. And so when we looked at this last night,
they put the bomb in the dash. You can see it right there. So it blew back towards him and blew the engine out the front.
That's right.
Then the car flipped down the road up against a tree.
That's right. Absolutely.
Man, I tell you, folks, they could just blow me up and just say, oh, fire. Everybody could be like, oh, it blew up. You know, there's an engine 50 yards down the road. No big deal. Nothing to worry about, Mr. Gover. Just a plastic explosive. We're in a little Caddyshack there. This is really scary, folks. David Knight is our guest in studio. I'm Alex Jones. Again, David's an InfoWars Nightly News reporter, an engineer, and he's also done investigative reporting in North Carolina. And now, of course, he's been here with the InfoWars team. What is it, 6, 7, 8 months now?
About 8.
Yeah, you're doing a great job, man.
Thank you.
Seriously, when I talk about people know what to do if they start rounding us up, disappearing us, I have worked as hard as I can to be nonviolent. I have done everything I can. And if they kill me, I don't want people to just go out and randomly, be violent. I want you to aggressively get the word out. Because I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid of these people running the world. Because once you give into a mafia culture, it just starts taking over and expanding until there's no society and you collapse like all those third world countries. And then the argument is, well, even if you're not a bad person, work with the evil because you'll have a better lot in life. It's the disease of our civilization. And obviously, if they start disappearing people in the night, Alexander Solzhenitsyn talked about it, how they burned in the camps later wishing they would have done something. I don't think we've gotten to that point yet, but we need to have a real debate, not just about NSA spying and persecuting the Tea Party with the IRS and persecuting pro-life groups who stand up for little babies. Look how evil these mafia people are. That's all it is we're being muscled. They are killing people, and David Knight covered it last night. Authors come out, with the history, and the New American Magazine wrote about it, about how the Pentagon admits their main tool now is assassination. Well, it's been like that for at least 60, 70 years. I mean, I know a lot of Army officers, Texans, who were in secret assassination groups here in the U.S., and it's not like the people I know are something special, ladies and gentlemen. It's giant. Do you understand that? And they have got, let's be conservative, more than 10,000, I would guesstimate, current domestic assassins that are Army, Navy, you name it. when you become a Navy SEAL or Green Beret or any of this stuff, or even Delta Force, then there's levels above that, okay? And those levels are called the dark side. And it's the narcotics, it's all of it going on. And these are like made men. I don't know if you can tell the story about your Navy SEAL friend. You were just telling me, oh, you don't want to tell it?
No.
But I mean, these guys, you know, it's disgusting. It's not cool. It's not tough. And they kill each other, too. I mean, no doubt they did a hit on Chris Kyle. No doubt all this stuff's going on. They will flush you down the toilet in a minute. Remember, hundreds of thousands of Gulf War troops got the Gulf War illness. At least 50,000 have died in the 20 years since. They knew when they detonated those 200-plus chemical dumps that it was all going to rain down and soft kill people. And that's now confirmed for 20 years, the brain stems. It's back on the New York Times last Friday. Again, you do not want to, there's no honor in this. And it's cowardly to blow up this journalist. I know he lied to McChrystal and said it was going to be a puff piece. And in their mafia rules, let me tell you, I would not be let in by the Pentagon to something and lie to them. If I told somebody, I'm not going to expose any of your confidences, because reportedly that's what he did. Because, I mean, it's not just that. I don't tell people I'm going to do something and then not do it. I'll tell the globalists I'm going to try to bring them down. I'll tell them I'm coming for them. In these mafia rules, this is how they operate. I'm telling you, you mess with their families or you work with them and then lie to them, and that's what Hastings did, you're free game. Now, I'm not saying it's good they blew him up, but it's another issue here. If they can burn down somebody in a cabin, say they did it, and then not get in trouble, and they can say that they're going to kill people and blow them up, and people see a bomb go off and kill Pat Tillman and then kill 5 members of Private Lynch's unit who said that she was cowering in fear. They went out and killed them. And I told Lynch through channels, I said, you better go public and say it was all a lie. They'll kill you next, like Pat Tillman. She went public and said it was all a lie. That's the only reason she's still alive, folks. This is how they operate. You mean nothing to them, okay? Now, you've got the floor. Break all this down. Go over the history of it, what we're facing, and then that...
Well, Alex, like you were just talking about, the L.A. police, what they said in the case of Chris Dorner, and how they were caught even... You could hear the transcripts, the audio of the police talking to each other saying, burn it down. They still denied that they burned it down. In this particular incident, we've got the L.A. Police Department, same police department, saying the engine's location is evidence that the driver was, quote, hauling Irish ass and lost control, unquote. And with the engine torn off, the gas lines would rupture and it would start a fire. Now, the engine's not going to go flying, no matter how fast you go in a new Mercedes. The engine and parts are not going to go flying everywhere.
It's bolted in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is not some old rusting Hulk with the engine mounts about to come off. This is a new Mercedes. And
look, I flipped a truck doing 80 before and the engine didn't come out.
Right.
Rolled it 3 times.
Right. And so, but they want to say, they've got a couple of different narratives here. One of them is that it crashes into the tree, it catches fire, but then you've got this engine hurled down the road. And they say, oh, yeah, well, the engine hurled down the road is evidence that's how the fire would have started. But you can't hurl the engine down at a right angle to the point of impact. And if the engine hurls down the road as he's going down the road, it's an explosion. So
you have the witnesses saying, boom, it woke them up, shook their houses.
Right, right. This is a very rare occurrence, too. As we're pointing out, in FEMA, Department of Homeland Security, they were talking about highway vehicle fires, and there's about 250,000 of them a year. Typically, nothing happens. Only in about 2% of these do you have a fatality. Actually, the actual number is 2.6%. Out of every...
Can we document, Cam, that, guys?
Sorry, not 2.6%. It's 2.6 out of every 1,000, so it's 0.26.
So I was wrong when I said 2%. It's 0.26.
0.26, yeah. So that's...
so it's less than 1%.
Less than 1%, exactly. Of course, as Darren McBrain pointed out, the probability goes up if you're a journalist that they don't like. Now, you were talking
they've done those studies on politicians. It's not just that they fly more. They do it with other frequent flyers. I saw the statistic like 15 years ago. It's probably changed, either less or more, I don't know, where you were something like 8 times more likely to die in a plane crash if you were a politician per capita than other frequent flyers that fly the same amount.
That's right. Now, when we covered this on the nightly news last night, we didn't go into speculating as to who might this be, because he's really, ticked off a lot of people, from McChrystal to he was investigating. He had done investigative reports on the CIA, was working on one for the CIA, and as you pointed out, he had tweeted to WikiLeaks that he was being followed by the FBI just hours before he died. So there were a lot of people in the government, as
just like Cop of the Year Terrence Yakey in Oklahoma City said, I got feds behind me, and they tortured him and killed him. Last phone call to his partner.
And as you're talking about this assassination government that we've got going on. This book is Mark Mazzetti's, Pulitzer Prize-winning author. The name of the book is Way of the Knife. And what he's talking about in this is the fact that Obama is using not just the CIA, but he's using the military now for assassination operations. That is becoming pervasive. And McChrystal was part of running that. McChrystal was head of the Special Operations Forces there, right? And McChrystal was also involved in the Pat Tillman cover-up. You know, he was the one who was there giving the awards and
oh yeah, he's the main suspect. He strikes again. I forgot McChrystal ran the op and the cover-up of Tillman.
That's right.
Oh, but oh boy.
So, you know, you've got this situation where you've got this as you pointed out, a massive amount of people, not just in the CIA, but now in special operations in the military. And you've got another author who has written an entire book about how assassination, and it's not just drone assassination. That's something that we look at and we say, wow, that's really cold. That's amazing that they're just raining death down on people from the air. That's just more visible. The invisible things that they're doing with all of these special operation forces and with the CIA, that, as you said, has been going on for a long time.
But they've just expanded it.
They've expanded it, and they don't even try to cover it up much anymore. And you get these ridiculous statements from the LA Police Department with situations like Chris Dorner, and again now with this car accident, it just doesn't make any sense.
Well, you know, the LA system was the beta test. Daryl Gates, before he died, gave interviews that the CIA in the 60s came in as a beta test, put them in black uniforms, militarize them, make it sexy, esprit de corps, all the other cops will want to be federalized.
Started the SWAT teams, is in LA?
SWAT teams, all of it. They started in LA, then in New York, and Dallas, of all places, then Houston, taking special ops hitmen and putting them into police departments so that when they need to kill a CIA guy, like they did down in Houston a few years ago, they pull him over, the CIA section guy gets out, what Carney was his name, and they shoot him right in the head under the helicopter. The guy's hands are at his side, boom, execution. And then you track back that cop, he was in Black Ops. So every major department has these federal hitmen on it now. Man, and they're not even feds, they work for foreign banks. I mean, this country's just in so much trouble.
And what's amazing about it is, like you said, you can get a video of it, you can get audio recordings of it, you can look at where the engine is, where the car is, the condition of the car. None of the
witnesses saying it blew up.
Yeah. And it's
because I've seen cars crash outside my house, run into a tree, people have been hurt, killed. Everybody's seen it. You hear, it's a big noise,
yes,
but it doesn't shake your house. Only the explosive wave by high explosives sends that.
That's right. But even if it had been an explosion because of gas lines, the engine was ejected down the road. The engine is not on fire.
Gasoline doesn't send those explosive waves, though.
Right. You talk about a smoking gun. I mean, there's no smoking engine. You know, that car was just really engulfed in flames, but the engine is down the road, not touched. So, I mean, that...
And the witnesses are saying it's driving down the road. I saw one where it's driving and bursts into flames.
Yeah, that's what the witness says. He says, I was just coming northbound on Highland, and I saw a car going really fast. All of a sudden, I seen it jackknife. I just seen parts fly everywhere, and I slammed on my brakes and stopped and tried to call 911. That's Luis Cortez. That's the eyewitness report, the only eyewitness report, because this happened at 4:30 in the morning.
Now, statistically, it being L.A., it was probably the police that loaded the bomb. Yeah, but that's usually, it's kind of like a turf deal, and they get their payment, and that's how it works.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, the L.A. Police Department, especially after the Dornan case, they just don't have any credibility.
They're the Gambinos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, I have had dinner with retired detectives and people that are basically with the Vikings. You know, they made movies about that. It's real. And they're just like, of course 9/11's an inside job. Of course they blew it up. I mean, they're like, what do you do? Everything's a mafia. I've been to a bunch of parties with them. I know some are famous cops. I mean, it's like, of course, it's all a big joke. I don't think this is cute. I don't want my kids growing up in a country like this.
No. And it is really frightening that they can just do this out in the open and deny it, and no matter how ridiculous it is. Another story that broke yesterday was the TWA Flight 800. The new documentary coming out where they've got 6 investigators who were shut down by the FBI when this happened.
They arrested journalists. We needed to get them on, who snuck in and got the samples in the hangar. It was an explosive, continuous rod warhead.
That's right. And in that case, you see the FBI is going out and interviewing people and just not putting down an official transcript, putting down a summary, not showing the summary even to the witnesses to say, did we get it right? I mean, they just went through a perfunctory
There were 700 Army and Navy witnesses to the missile. Yeah. They were having a drill then.
Yeah, exactly. And you got transcriptions of airline pilots.
Of course, you know the plane was loaded with Egyptian military officers.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I
got to show you this.
The rise of the killer drones, how America goes to war in secret. Michael Hastings, an inside look at how killing by remote control has changed the way of flight. Yeah, these are the articles.
And here's a drone strike from above. See, the wheels are still intact? Gigi Ernetta just pointed that out. Is it possible this guy could have been hit by a drone as sort of a, you're writing about drones? Now we're going to hit you.
Yeah.
McChrystal's out there.
Yeah, that drone strike does look like that. But generally, I know it looks similar, but that would hammer the engine down or maybe out. Depends on where the missile hit.
Right.
I mean, it's much easier and easier to hide. Why would they go with something exotic? Or maybe they'll start having drones out in public and kill people. I mean, it's really a flaunting now of these psychopaths. It could be, but seeing other car bombs, the professionals put plastic explosives, and a lot of times with an accelerant, and with something that's flammable to burn up the evidence, it looks like a dashboard bomb to me.
Right. Yeah, because that was a very intense fire. Like, that looks even more intense than that would have been. I mean, that car was completely engulfed.
Well, fragmentation.
Yeah. I mean, Gigi Ernetta brought that to my attention, and I'm like, we got to go. And you guys are talking about this right now, and it's just so, he's writing about drones.
Yeah.
And
I don't know, that drone strike, I mean, that does.
Yeah.
That's Let me show people on document cam that are watching on TV. Go ahead.
And also, I sent the guys a link. McChrystal was on that billboard a while back that we covered, and it was when Colin Powell and a bunch of those guys came here to speak. Rudy Giuliani was the other guy, and somebody put up there Pat Tillman, and the numbers on it. It was pretty crazy. They put a star on the guy's forehead. I don't know. It was pretty, and I just thought that was interesting too.
Some bad person climbed up on there and did that here in Austin?
I know.
Wonder who that was.
I can't believe it. But
that was disrespectful.
I just think that, people already know the truth about this guy, and people have known it for years, and he's still walking around scot-free at that point,
How dare someone climb up on the billboard and do that?
I hate when people do that.
We should just let these people kill everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we should all be scared of them too.
This Hastings thing is going to get a lot deeper. Definitely.
Well, I don't even think they care now. I mean, maybe they did, but I'm surprised they didn't have a drone fly over in broad daylight and announce, we're now going to blow it up, kind of like Dorner. We're going to burn it down. All right, bring the fire, burn it down.
Yeah, well, and the guy said it suddenly jackknifed. I mean, that could be from a bomb or it could be from a drone strike. How do these things happen?
Actually, when they hit one, they do kind of fly up and do that. Wow, it depends on what kind of missile they used.
I mean, are they that brazen at this point?
If it was a bomb from underneath that had enough force in it to sever the engine and send it down 150 feet down the road, I mean, it would go lift up in the air.
Yeah, that sounds like 8-10 pounds of plastic.
Yeah,
I don't know, but it doesn't. It's not a situation where it did not crash into the tree.
No,
pin him in there and then catch fire. That is not what happened.
But that's what the news is going to say.
Right. Here's the deal: if my car blows up, they killed me. Okay.
Right.
All right. Good job, dude.
All right.
We'll be covering this more.
Well, one other thing from McChrystal is you may remember he was also a big proponent of the universal service. So in spite of his criticisms of Obama that were reported by Michael Hastings that caused him to get fired, he really loves Obama's programs, right? He loves national service, and he hates citizens having weapons. He made the rounds with all the talk shows.
He's an anti-gunner. He's a real authoritarian.
Oh, yeah, and he was talking about...
Better not talk too bad about him. I'll end up like Pat Tillman.
So why do you want to have military weapons? And what he would talk about would be the velocity of the bullet. He wasn't talking about the fact that Homeland Security is getting hollow point bullets, which are far more destructive to people. But he was talking about, these military bullets, they travel this speed, you don't need that. And it's like, the speed of the bullet doesn't
But these guys are such gangsters, illegally spying on us, and Alexander, the head of the NSA, says, hey, I'm going to meet with the FBI director, and I'll owe him a frickin' beer. I mean, it's all just, there's just such a bunch of goons.
Yeah, yeah. But
they will destroy this country if they're able to.
Yeah. It's just amazing to me, as I said, when I look at this, how the media is just falling in lockstep with this official narrative, and you can see the pictures even that the media puts there that contradict what they're saying. And they still go along with this.
Well, that's always the evidence, is they're immediately, no foul play, ran into a tree.
Yeah.
And then witnesses all say the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, he tells WikiLeaks, I'm being followed by the FBI. I gotta get this out quick. I mean, it'd be like, the government's following me. Oh, my car blows up. It's like, oh, nothing to see here. Go on to sleep. Well, and I mean, will the media stand up, you prostitutes of the globalist, shelling out your families, even as they kill you? Do you have any spines? Do you have anything? I just don't get it. And I guess the system doesn't even care if we're out here talking about this because they think the general public's cowards and will just roll over that much more to this gangster government.
That's right. Yeah, if you look at him going at a high speed, it could be that they made sure that he knew that they were following him. Yeah, they could have been chasing him, then blown the car up. Who knows? I mean, we can speculate about that, but what we know is it did not blow up and catch fire because it hit the tree.
Yeah. Alex Jones back live. You know, as we sit here and talk about political assassination by this criminal shadow government that'll murder 1 million Iraqis for some no-bid weapons contracts because they like it. A global government run by people like Bayer that on purpose puts HIV and hepatitis in the factor 8 for people. I mean, of course we're all in grave danger, and our complying and groveling greases the skids for them. Texas is known for being free because my ancestors and many of your ancestors would stand up to dictators instead of cowering in fear. And I just don't understand this living on the knees thing. It's disgusting. And it's all a fear-based society. Now, continuing here, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Swartz, who was connected into WikiLeaks, fighting SOPA, CISPA, leaking a lot of data, leading the fight, he proposed to his fiancée about a week before he was killed. He said, I'm going to beat this in court. I'm going to fight it. I'm very confident. And they came to his house and hung him. Came to his apartment and hung him. Killed him deader than a hammer. And then said, oh, the district attorney that's, by the way, running the Boston bombing cover-up, she drove him to it. I mean, they could have all these media attacks on me right now and say, oh, Alex got driven to suicide. I would commit suicide when hell freezes over. Never, 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 never. Okay? And they killed Aaron Swartz, folks, and they're killing you in the vaccines and the GMO. And you've got to realize it's like the plot of Elysium coming out. Matt Damon's been poisoned, radiated in a factory. His only hope's to get to the space station where they've got life extension technology. He's going to die in 5 days anyways. Why shouldn't he just get up there? I realize I have nothing to lose. I'm not lying to myself here. And I love my children more than anything. But they have no future if I don't beat the globalists. That's why they're beyond the globalist reach, because if they go after them, they're destroyed anyways if this thing wins. The globalists are gearing up to release bioweapons and wipe out almost everybody. What am I going to try to do, make $5 billion and grovel to the elite and then try to go join them and maybe I'll be given a pass when all this comes down? I don't want to live in a world like that. I'm not going to sign on to killing all these people. I'm not going to sign on to putting cancer virus in little kids' shots and watching them get cancer. I mean, just every time I think about the innocents and the aborted children and all the evil going on, I just have no fear. I mean, as a man, I was born to just stand up to the tyrants. So you can car bomb me, slit my throat, poison me, whatever. I am beyond you. I am in Jesus Christ's hands forever. And if you don't believe in God, I choose justice. I choose being a good creature. Not a sneaking, stealing, murdering, nasty, fraud-driven New World Order. And I hope you'll stand with us in history for goodness, okay? Against all the cynics and all the rest of them. I hope that you will stand with us, and I hope you'll promote Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, because I don't want to just do this halfway and get killed for nothing. I know we can change history. I know there's different forces in this world. And so I'm fully committed. So buy the Pro Pure water filters at the lowest price. Cut all the poison and garbage out of your water. Promo code WATER, InfoWarsStore.com. Get PrisonPlanet.tv memberships to see the nightly news and all the films. Share them with friends and family. Operation Sleeping Giant. Buy the books, the films. Get the new film, State of Mind, and get American Dream, Exposing the Federal Reserve, free with your purchase. InfoWarsStore.com, or link through at Infowars.com, or go to PrisonPlanet.tv and sign up and get 11 memberships at the price of one and share them with friends and family. And if you have a membership, share it. My only fear is failing. My only fear is that I don't have enough energy at like 7, 8 at night to keep working. My only fear is that I have these eloquent, complex thoughts that I know can awaken humanity, and I don't have the strength to properly transmit this info to you. I don't want to fail you. Don't fail me. Let's together stand against these king rats. Stay with us. Second hour, 1 minute away. We're going to open the phones up in the next segment on the opening of the borders and gutting of the country. We're going to get into jobless claims rise as manufacturing growth slows in the great new globalist economy. We're going to look at some of the mental health bills going to different governors' desks that just allow them to take guns basically from anybody. SARS-like virus has high mortality rate in Saudi Arabia. Privacy officials from 6 countries request details on Google Glasses. This is turning you into a Google agent going around spying for them. People are, you bring the Kinect into your house and pay to have it look through your walls and spy on you and report back to Northcom, which is GlobalCon. And then, of course, we have the Michael Hastings, the witnesses saying his car just blew up all over the road. They blew him up. He said the FBI was following him about 2 hours, hour and a half before his car blew up. So unbelievable. We're going to be covering that, recapping that coming up in the hour. We just had David Knight in, about 30 minutes, breaking down the different angles of that. And then we've got a lot of other news. The UN is calling for a global kill switch, and Russia agrees with them. That story is up in the middle column at drudgereport.com. And also, if you click on the top stories tab of Infowars.com, it's already rolled off the main page. That's the only problem with Infowars. So many of our top stories are not long like Drudge, where more can be up there on the front page. It rolls off, and then it's all just so incredible. It's also super creepy. It's like, man, I better hurry up and expose these people and somehow have a breakthrough and back things off before they come for me. They've already come for my name, telling wilder and wilder lies, just at a level I've never seen before. They're so angry. We've got reporters that go and take over their press conferences. If they kill me for anything, it'll be sending Dan Badandi. They might whack him, too, as a message, but probably not. They'd probably come after me if they go after anybody for going and taking over those press conferences. There's a reason hundreds of reporters were at those, and the FBI said, you do not look at his photos and you do not listen to him. And they all said, yes, sir. And then privately came over and said, we agree with you, but we're all scared, because they know. They'll just take you around back and blow your head off. I mean, this country is mafia run. Government runs Al-Qaeda. And again, you got FBI that investigate child kidnappings and bank robberies. They're the light side of the FBI. Joel Skousen can break that down for you. He's had family in the FBI and studied it. And you've got the real operators that sit there and basically let the regular FBI do their paperwork for them. That's the same thing at the ATF, same thing at the CIA, same thing at the NSA. You have the compartmentalized criminal group that now has gotten to be about half or more. Skousen estimates the last few years it's passed the 50-50 mark. I mean, they've killed hundreds of Army investigators and dozens of Marine investigators who would go expose, stealing and thieving going on. And they'll just shoot them 3 times in the chest and then have the Army coroner say, oh, he shot himself 3 times in the chest. And if a general tries to stand up, they just kill them. Congressman stands up, like Hightower did that time, and blow up his airplane. I met his son at Charlie Sheen's house. That was pretty interesting. He said he'd come on the show, and then I think I brought his card back. Did we ever call him? Oh, I just can't handle it anymore. It's just so insane. Why? Why do we let the worst people run everything? Don't people get it's not sexy and cool like the movies say, and that corruption grows? Corruption's like locking up 20 dogs in your house with all the food they can eat for a month and coming back. What do you think it looks like? You'll be knee-deep in you-know-what. And they try to dress it up, gangsterism, and all this is cool. It just makes me want to throw up. It makes me want to throw up as the system shakes down farmers and hardworking people and takes poor people's paycheck to give it to foreign banks, and has media propaganda tell them in social envy, class envy, oh, we're taxing to get the rich people. It's so sick as they work overtime. The globalists think of us as scum because we put up with all this. Maybe we are. Maybe humanity deserves to be ruled by a bunch of murderers because we don't put up with it. And that's the attitude of the globalists. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to give out the phone number and get your take on the amnesty plan they're preparing, evidence indicating Michael Hastings of Rolling Stone that had a big story coming out that was supposedly going to shake the CIA. So his car blew up driving down the street. Witnesses said it was an explosion. The engine went over 50 yards down the street with no fire. Looks like classic car bomb in the dashboard or under the car, bare minimum, type explosion. He said, the FBI's after me. The FBI's following me an hour and a half before in a tweet and 2 WikiLeaks. So, I mean, you're being followed. The feds are after you. Your car blows up. And you've got all these other people, like the Zarnev brother friend who was speaking out. And the FBI comes to his house, shoots him in the top of the head. He's unarmed. Pat Tillman, the list goes on and on. Aaron Schwartz said, I'm going to beat these fake Justice Department charges. I'm getting married. They come to his house and hanging. And then say, we drove him to suicide. The D.C. madam said on this show a month before they hung her in her mother's shed, I will never commit suicide. I will never commit suicide. And then some guy that was proven she didn't even know on the other side of the country comes out and says, she told me she was, with no proof. So if they kill me like that, they'll have someone pop up and say, Alex said he was going to do it. Whoever says that is a liar. Is a liar. They could have a gun to my head saying they'd come after my children if I didn't write a suicide note. I'm not writing nothing. You understand? And I'm never committing suicide. I want that on record. And again, they also haven't killed me yet because they know my media organization is going to come after this investigation and is going to go after it 110%. And no one's going to shut up or stop. We know they're doing the NDAA. That's why Obama wanted, on paper, to be able to say he could kill U.S. citizens anytime he wanted inside of the United States or worldwide. But we won't use it. They are using it. Michael Hastings, award-winning journalist and BuzzFeed reporter, dies at 33. It appears he was driving at a high rate of speed. At the scene of the crash, there were no skid marks, but car is not smashed up against a tree, consistent with what's said. It's just up against one, and the engine is down the road. Yeah, no, they blew the car off. And there it is, an ABC local, that there's no skid marks. It's just blown into pieces with the engine down the road. And people said they heard a huge explosion and saw it burst into flames driving down the road. And we covered all that last hour. It's in Paul Watson's article on Infowars.com right now. Here's some of the other news up on Infowars.com. Sheeple waking up to NSA spying. Privacy search engines are booming. NSA capable of false flag attacks by Kit Daniels. They're the ones wired into everything. Evidence indicates Michael Hastings was assassinated. Superman goes bad, joins the NSA. It's a satire piece. Got some great graphics in it that our crew put together, by the way, of Superman looking through walls and things. Tell TSA what you think about its surface mode Gestapo, now on the streets of America. Cancer survivor wins Supreme Court battle over gene patenting. The dark side of Ray Kurzweil's transhumanist utopia. And then there's Kurt Nimmow's article from last night. Is journalist Michael Hastings a victim of Obama assassination policy? That's some of the news up on Infowars.com. Let's play a clip from ABC News Local in L.A. Talking about Michael Hastings and talking to witnesses about what they saw and what they heard. Here it is.
Rolling Stone magazine called Michael Hastings a fearless journalist who refused to cozy up to power. His death at 33 came by way of a fire-fueled and explosive crash.
It sounded like a bomb went off in the middle of the night. My house shook. The windows were rattling.
Couldn't have written a scene like this for a movie where the engine flies from the car, which was about, 50, 60 yards up, right down here to this telephone pole.
Ladies and gentlemen, he could be going 150 miles an hour. I've seen a lot of wrecks, especially in a Mercedes, the way they're built. You're not going to have the engine fly down the road. They could blow up anybody. And people are just told, it just ran into a tree. And then you look, it's been blown off the road, and it's up against a tree. Not sandwiched up against it, not an indent from it. It's just setting up against a tree. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'd say 95, 98% chance they killed this guy. And he says, I'm being followed by the FBI. I've got a big thing coming out that could blow the CIA wide open. And they said, really? Think so, bud? We got something that's going to blow you wide open. And who founded the CIA? OSS, British Intelligence, and Skull and Bones at Yale, which was set up by the British East India Company in 1832 under the Russell Trust, who had the world monopoly on opium into the West, and who then lobbied to get opium made illegal so they could shut down all their competition in the 1930s. The CIA has always been there to bring the drugs in. The CIA has always been there for the robber barons. People started fighting the robber barons in the 1850s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, right through the 20s. The robber barons would just show up with a railroad train full of Pinkerton security and others. And it's just like in, what movie is that with Clint Eastwood? Toll-free number to join us, folks, 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231, and we'll start going to your phone calls here in a moment. My point is that it's not High Plains Drifter, but it's kind of a remake of it where Eastwood goes to the mining town and they want the people to give up their claim where they found gold. The railroad does with the big miner company. And then they send in the detectives to start killing people. Folks, those are true stories. There were hundreds of events like that in Colorado, you name it, but also in New Jersey and places where they would show up with the Army, or they would show up with hundreds of Pinkerton or other security guys and just start Gatling gunning towns, just taking property that wasn't even theirs. And people started arming, they called them Sagebrush Rebellion, started killing them. People started beating the Army, beating Pinkerton. People started organizing, going, you want to start killing? Let's start killing. And people would also find out who the Pinkerton people's family were in other groups, and they'd go to another state and kill them. Not their family, but the people that ran it. Frontier people started, going, you want to hit us? We'll hit you right back. So it all went underground in national security. And then we say, America doesn't kill people. It's like in The Godfather where Kay says to Michael Corleone says to him, okay, my dad has people killed sometimes. That's what presidents and senators do. And she goes, Michael, presidents and senators don't have people killed. And he goes, who's being naive now? Kay. And see, the argument is, and it's really true because The Godfather's based on real mafia families, real names. They just changed them. That's on record. Mario Puzo. It's got all the main characters in it who are real people. And when you expand on all of this, the argument is well, the old mafia just stood up when the police were their own mafia. They would stand up for you. But then notice how that mafia turned into something just as bad or worse. And that's how this gang society operates. And pretty soon, that's all you've got left. Pretty soon, all you've got left is gangs. And then what gang are you in? And then gangs tend to stop working. And everybody joins a gang, and then society collapses. Or they go out and grab the peasants and put them in slave camps to produce for them. But then slave camps aren't very productive. So it gets to the point where even the heads of the countries can't even get good food or good clothing, like North Korea. And they will wreck everything if they have their way. They will wreck everything. Because why shouldn't big corporations, if they have a mafia government, why shouldn't General Electric give every year on average over $100 million to the Democratic Party? They also give the Republican to have them come in and shut down every power plant they don't own and then double and triple your prices. Why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't we have rolling blackouts now all over the country because we don't have enough infrastructure? Why shouldn't they shut down our factories and pay $20+ billion of taxpayer money to move General Motors, Volt, Cadillac, you name it, to China? So they can have robots replace the people and have the people go die in the streets starving to death. Not even helping with Chinese. I mean, why not? We'll put up with it. Why not? Because they have disdain for us. You look at Rahm Emanuel, who was the real president, till he got kicked out by some other insiders because he was so arrogant and so mentally ill, reportedly, and sent to be the mob boss in Chicago, where I'm sure he can listen on 1530. He routinely, at Democratic Party events, grabs butcher knives and starts going, just stabbing the table and foaming at the mouth, going, murder everyone, murder, murder the Republicans, murder, murder. And he'll be in meetings with Obama and just go, shut up. And literally, just slap Obama on the arm. Just start stumbling around on a power trip. I mean, this is what runs America. And then he gets up on TV and goes, we're going to have national conscription. Your kids are going to serve in a domestic armed force in America, working for us. I mean, just crazy mafia. Just, your kids work for us, we're going to arm them. And then you get the training manuals, and it's to fight gun owners. I mean, these are just Joe Stalin wrapped in Hitler, wrapped in the gangsters of old. But now they've got satellites and drones and robots and weapons, and they're just running around with jets landing, all the kidnapped kids on record, loading them up in Chicago, in Houston. They fly them out to Saudi Arabia, Thailand. Local cops try to expose it. They kill the cops. I mean, you want to know where your kids are going? It's going to these people. I mean, why not? You put up with it. I'm telling you, folks, you got to stand up against these people. They're a bunch of knuckle-dragging gangsters who've got nuclear weapons. God help us. Will we be free or slaves? Well, we act like a bunch of knock-kneed cowards. The wolves will come. You go out in the field at night and squeal like a dying bunny rabbit. Good chance coyotes are going to come over the hill. And if you roll over on your back and act like you're prey, they might actually kill you. Coyotes are now killing Americans routinely. Never before happened in recorded history. Only wolves would do that if starving, but people fall down groveling and crying when they see them in a park. They think, well, that's something to eat. And the American people act like a prey animal. And so we're growing predators faster than you can count them. And they tell us how they're doing it for our safety. I'm going to go to your phone calls, but up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, Superman goes bad, joins the NSA. And I like to hijack popular memes to then illustrate that, he has X-ray vision. He's looking through the building there at the lady in the shower. It's not a risque photo. It just illustrates that actually with Connect systems and smart meters, Connect can look through your walls and see you in the shower. We should probably add that to the write-up there. But Don Salazar heard me talk about this yesterday and put it out, and our great graphics crew came up with that graphic. They did some others, I guess they put on the cutting room floor, but they ought to add those to it. And I'm going to send that out on Twitter at Real Alex Jones as well right now. But right now, speaking of right now, let's go to Truth Raider in Oregon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Alex Jones and all the info warriors out there in the world. This is the Truth Raider. Get it in your face with the facts. You were talking about amnesty and talking about the borders being wide open. I have an issue with a next-door neighbor. I completely don't want to have any contact with them. I leave them alone. I go out my back door to avoid them completely. I went out last night to go up to the store, get something to eat. The guy's on the other side of the street heckling me, and he's whistling at me. So I ignore him. I come back, go around the other side of the building on the other side of the street. He's on the other side of the street ready to confront me. They say, hey, what's up? What's up? And I say, I don't want to talk to you. Oh, and then he starts cussing at me. So well, that's what you're doing to me and doing to all of us. I told him I paid $4,000 and moved 1,000 miles to get away from you. I went into one of my Alex Jones rants with him. Oh, I'll call the police. I'll call the police.
Well, what you're talking about, an illegal alien that you think doesn't like you because you're a different skin color?
Well, I think that he knows that I'm trying to avoid them. When I first moved into my apartment here, I tried to be friendly. I said, hello, how are you? And he just gave me a dirty look.
Well, I haven't had problems with the illegals, whether they be from Mexico or Eastern Europe or whatever. My issue is that they tend to vote anti-gun, pro-government, pro-corrupt government, pro-mafia, because that's the cultures they're coming from. Most countries are mafia-driven. America's been mafia-driven, gang-driven. We're trying to get away from that. Not supercharge it, but I think that I haven't had the experiences you're talking about. My experiences with the illegals that make me mad is they're like above the law. We have crew that live in apartments, some of them, and the illegals are allowed to do whatever they want, but citizens, whether you be white, black, Hispanic, whatever, get the book thrown at you. So I think being in the system, we're seen as chumps by the mafia government, the mafia police. And my issue is, but Summy, you're saying you've had experiences, xenophobic experiences towards you because you're not the same as an immigrant group, or what?
I'm an American. I've been in the military. I'm former retired military. You know, I fought for the sovereignty and the freedom of this country, and it's being eviscerated. The Constitution and all the due process is being eviscerated. I'm not happy about that. I left California to get away from all that's going on down there. I mean, you know, all the host of all the issues concerning illegal aliens, the gangsters, the gang culture, the crime along the border, all of that stuff. Trouble with a relative of mine, an elderly, my stepmother, who had lots of troubles with them for years. They did damage to her property, broke into her place for years.
No, there's no doubt that there's a crime wave coming out of Mexico, and you're supposed to be politically correct and not talk about it. I mean, Mexico is a collapsed, failed state, and obviously then people think they're not liked, and then you think you're not liked, and the body language intensifies that. And I have run into the whole gang culture. And again, you find the gang culture everywhere. You know, I've got family in East Texas, and I've worked there and been there in the summer, and, you know, had people come over at the community pool and say, "Get out of here, you Yankee," because anybody from Dallas must be a Yankee. But I hear you. It's just exactly the gang mentality I'm talking about. And the gang mentality has a way of putting you into it, even if you don't want to be what they call racist. It's really gang or tribal. And if you look at Latin America, Africa, Europe, whatever, you'd have one group of Scots killing the other group of Scots until the English invaded, and then they'd unify. And in Africa, you'll have animists killing Christians or Muslims killing Christians or vice versa. And it's just what humans do. And the globalists manipulate and play that. I'd rather have a gang that's into science and liberty and freedom and justice and unify around those ideals. The question is the establishment flaunting it on purpose that the private Federal Reserve's collection agency, the IRS, is targeting liberty lovers? Are they throwing it in our face that they're assassinating American citizens all over the world for no reason? Are they throwing it in our face that foreign banks are taking $85 billion a month and Congress is told to sit down and shut up and not ask who's getting it? I think the answer is yes. The globalists just can't help but steal everything. Nobody's stopping them. And so they have a method of the madness of just pimp us, break our will, teach us to accept it as we convert to a society of just groveling idiots who worship nothing but hype and foolishness. And any reporters that expose them or actually show the criminality they're engaged in, you just kill them. And that's the future we leave our children. Not a very good society. Not a very good future, my friends. We're going to go to your phone calls here. I'm going to move to a bunch of them, so have your question and comment ready. I want to try to take a lot of calls. When you hear somebody hang up, that'll be your chance to get involved on air. 800-259-9231. Very interesting movie star that I'm a big fan of. I've talked about that some before. Ran into some of my people in California while they were out there last week, and is actually shooting a movie right now in another country and is in character and doesn't ever do interviews when he's in character, but said he'd like to come on today. We kind of got back with him late just because they're in a country where the time zone is earlier than us. It's later there. So they'll either be on today or tomorrow because they said that they would like to come on. They like to come on the broadcast. We have some very interesting questions here that I sent them. They said, well, what type of questions would you ask me if I came on? And we sent these. I said, I like those questions. I think those are interesting. So obviously, it's not even that big of a deal to get a big movie star on the show. I like doing that when they talk about political things especially. But it's then wondering if you're going to get them. It's almost like having a big, beautiful fish right up to the boat, and you're wondering if you're going to get it into the boat. So it's right there at the side of the boat, and we'll see what happens coming up. And plus, then I have another guest that was already set in the next hour, a Second Amendment advocate, really cool guy here in Austin. And so I don't like having to move him around and have him waiting. So we'll see what happens. A lot coming up here today on the broadcast. Now, continuing here, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about some of the sponsors that make the broadcast possible and that just have amazing products. We only carry what we believe in. InfidelBodyArmor.com has a huge line of products, and their body armor is superior. Most Chromatic only stops 6 rounds. Their system can stop hundreds of AK-47, M4, 30-06, 308, and more. Related to level 3 body armor, they've got it all. Fits medium to XXL, 888-608-6605, InfidelBodyArmor.com, 888-608-6605, and supporting our sponsors supports the broadcast. See their full catalog online, or you can also call them and have them mail you one for InfidelBodyArmor.com. Also, eFoodsDirect.com/Alex. That is where you will find all of the specials. And I don't have a phone number in this folder, so maybe we'll put eFoodsDirect.com/Alex up on screen. I can give the number out that way. But again, ladies and gentlemen, eFoodsDirect.com/Alex. Or you can simply give them a call toll-free, 800-409-5633, 800-409-5633. They've got a lot of specials going up there at eFoodsDirect.com/Alex or 800-409-5633. And then in closing here with the plugs, the new film State of Mind. I'm in it. It's excellent. It exposes the history, the present, and the future of mind control. It'll really wake up sheeple that there is a war on for their mind, and knowing is half the battle. That's not a G.I. Joe saying. That's an old military U.S. Army saying. And then you can get the American Dream film on the Federal Reserve. It's very powerful. It exposes the Rothschilds and Rockefellers free when you get this film on DVD or Blu-ray. Are we controlled? To what extent and by whom? And what does it mean for humanity's future? State of Mind, available right now at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. Okay, let's go ahead and go to Rod in France. You're on the air, Rod.
Hello, Alex. Good to talk to you again. Wanted to ask you your opinion on the elections that will be coming up. As you know, there will not be an incumbent for the presidency. And I don't know what you think, but for me, it's looking like Rand Paul is going to be a serious candidate if he decides to run. And I was wondering, I had heard you mention something about the electronic voting, and maybe, you know, the globalists have their hands in that, possibly. And if it came down to the wire and Rand Paul, hypothetically, if Rand Paul was in the running for the presidency, and it was close, and do you think that they could play around with the electronic voting, and if he did make it in, do you think that it's possible that someone would try to take him out because he doesn't have a globalist agenda?
Well, just to be clear, and I appreciate your call, it's a great question. Just to be clear, we get 60% turnouts or close to it. It's like 57% is the average. I think last 4 elections I saw that a few months back in the newspaper. But it's around 60% turnout in national presidential elections and about 45-50% off-year elections. And then on average, you get about 8% turnout locally in the country. Travis County happens to be right at the national average, I think 8.4% last time I saw the numbers where I live. And in places like Travis County, I've been to the election board at the state. They've certified election fraud, but they still rubber stamp it. There is no voting in Austin. And that's why it's so fraudulent and socialist and communist and globalist and insiders robbing everybody and taking people's private property and out-of-control zoning boards and just hell on earth because they have been proven over and over again to steal elections. They've had county commissioner elections where somebody's 20-something points ahead, and then the county commissioner who's friends with the county clerk, this is in the paper, throws fits and collapses, and then the county clerk says, "It's okay, hun, I'll make it better," and then suddenly they win. I mean, it's just, they don't even hide it. It's kind of like, you know, the CIA publicly brings in the drugs, or they publicly killed Pat Tillman, and it comes out and they don't get in trouble. I mean, it is just lawless evil. 35–40% of the country's got certified fraud systems in. And if you're voting the way they want, they'll let you actually have it. They've been caught all over the country, Diebold, all of them. They have pre-programmed algorithms. They have live feeds in the programs to go in, change the votes, and then have it covered up for them. And that's on record. That's been testified in Florida legislature, Ohio, Texas. It's well known. Just like it's well known the NSA spies on you without warrants. Just like it's well known they put cancer viruses in all the major vaccines. Just like it's well known sodium fluoride lowers your IQ around 20 points, give you 7-fold increase in bone cancer. I keep going for a couple hours. It's just all well known. It's well known to people that know how to tie their shoelaces. And so, from the experts we've talked to, like Bev Harris and many others, I knew the Collier brothers before they died, and their daughter and all of them, who first really exposed it 30, 40 years ago. They have trouble fixing big, massive landslides. But they could still do that. So that's why they're so arrogant. That's why they pass the NDAA and say, we'll kill you if we want. That's why they run the narcotics. That's why they take over 1 million kids every year. Why state and federal courts are ruling they can take your kids for no reason. That was in the news yesterday. This is how tyranny works. They've got a group, an army of criminals, an army of scum, an army of control freaks who will do whatever they're told, or they'll be replaced. And they're marching against us. And they're stealing and robbing and destroying everything. And they will accelerate it until everything is destroyed and sewage is running down the streets and you are completely poor. They will destroy health care. They will destroy our borders. They will rob everything. It's what they do. Unless we stand up to them and just... Basically, we've eaten poison. We're going to get very sick if we don't vomit the poison out. And we may not make it even if we were to vomit it all out now. So much of it's in the bloodstream. And this is how society dies. And people want to die. And you know, and in a way, we've killed 53 million babies in America and say they're not humans. Well, you're not human either. Yeah, and you let them go kill Iraqis and take everything they've got, so the bankers will take everything you got. That's how it works. It's a spiritual law of the universe. It's a law of quantum mechanics. It's a law of physics. That what comes around goes around. That's why you have empathy. I don't need to cold-bloodedly say I'm against killing Iraqis, you know, over 1 million of them, just so globalists make money, because it'll come back on me. I have empathy. I'm hardwired to not like it in my gut, in my spirit. But that hardwiring is also there as a survival mechanism. And people think not caring is tough. They're going to find out. No one is immune. No one is immune. Everyone will drink from this cup. And there's not going to be a big fake rapture. The Bible doesn't say that up front to get us out of all this. We're going to go through it. So I hope everybody gets that through their heads. Okay? You want excitement, folks, you're going to get it. But people are so brainwashed, they won't even know. People think they're bored. You're bored? You're living in the middle of a science fiction movie. They're blowing up Rolling Stones reporters on the streets of L.A. in car bombs. They burn down police officers in cabins. Who knows if Dorner even did what they said, and then say, we burned him up, but we didn't burn him up. They just do whatever they want. Let's go to, so I don't know about Rand Paul. Rand Paul's good because he puts out liberty-based ideas and criticizes tyranny. Scott in Vermont, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Alex. Yeah, you won't see. I don't think you'll see Matt Taibbi of Rolling Stone talking about conspiracies regarding Hastings. But anyways, I want to bring up.
Because everybody knows the U.S. government doesn't kill anybody.
I want to bring up General Ben Parton. He was so great on the Oklahoma bombing years ago, exposing the truth about that. He's a bomb expert, and Flight 800. And but the thing is, and he's on the film A Noble Lie, which is great. I don't know if you've had him on your show, but and you've probably been asked this before. I've been meaning to ask you.
I've had Parton on many times. Get Ben Parton on. If you guys don't have his number in the computer, he's been on 20 times over the years. Had been on in about 5 years. Former head of Air Force Weapons Development, former head of HARP. I want him on, and you can call the Noble Lie guys to get his number if you don't have it.
Yeah, Alex, he designed the very missile that he said, the continuous rod warhead missile that he says took down Flight 800.
No, I know. I mean, they had to, and reporters heard him. They broke in, got the samples. It was U.S. government explosive used in that missile, so they arrested them. And where was the media when that happened? No, they blew that up because it was full of Egyptian military officers.
Why has he never talked about 9/11?
You know, I talked to him after 9/11, and he just said, I'm not going there.
Going there, huh? Well, maybe sometime before he, maybe, is worried about it, but I wish he would. But, the media said yesterday that conspiracy, they brought out this new story about these researchers on the original investigators now coming out, now that they're retired, got their pensions, coming out and saying that there's a cover-up. They said that, conspiracy theorists have long thought there was a sinister a plot there. No, we were talking about, they were talking about an accident, and the Navy, and it's come out from people that were on the inside have told their family. I know somebody who knows somebody.
It wasn't an accident. They routed the aircraft over the drill to get rid of the Egyptians. They blew it up. It had a bunch of other military officers on it as well.
Boy, and all those kids.
They blow up aircraft full of military all the time. I don't know why these governments fly a bunch of top generals together on the same aircraft.
In Pennsylvania that were learning French and going over to France there, they died too. Well, that's too bad, Alex. But we got to expose that and everything else too, and don't worry about them calling us conspiracy theorists or whatever, because a lot of it's true.
Notice this is all coming out now, though. All these scandals that were already there. It's not that Snowden isn't a hero, and I think he's a real person. It's that they knew months before, and Washington Post and Guardian were sitting on it. And then they got the green light to go with it because Benghazi will bring them down. They had 2 drones and other aircraft with high-def video of the 6+ hour stand down, and they had those people murdered using the al-Qaeda security force over Benghazi. And this wakes up the mafia, who themselves are, these guys sit around. I have sat around with old Army Black Ops operators and people, and they're all the same. They've got literal paintings of Western characters on the wall. They read Louis L'Amour books. John Wayne's on the wall. And they just absolutely think we're America, we're the tough guys, we kill everybody, and we use evil tactics because we're protecting the good. And this whole thing of publicly running al-Qaeda has really freaked the military out. It's like half the military, 40 to 50% now of the non-commissioned officers and below are my listeners. That freaks out the system to the point of they're saying the military is the enemy. And you've got all these guys that have done all this bad stuff, but they believe end justifies the means. They're now all getting it. Something like Benghazi could bring them down because their own hitmen. Believe me, folks, the Army doesn't just go fight battles. They go around killing people 24/7 all over the world. And it's mainly the Army. That's why whenever Pachinik comes in and goes, the SEALs like to brag about what they do. That's kind of a public unit for PR for the Navy. The Army doesn't talk about what they do. And the Army doesn't like it being talked about either, Alex. Because it is. The Army is just, from my research, is just giant. Just huge secret armies of hitmen and saboteurs and just everything else. It's just mind-blowing. And the Army's like, you sat there and killed all these people, and they all know, and hundreds of people were in situation rooms watching this. So Benghazi's what they're really afraid of, ladies and gentlemen. Benghazi is what they're afraid of. Because you've got all these guys that think they've done all this stuff for John Wayne and to fight the commies and all this stuff. And now they see the country being destroyed, everything being devalued. They're being told they're the new enemy. Yeah, because they're done with you guys now. They're done. They're going to bring in the drones, the robots. They're going to bring in Interpol. They're going to bring in foreign hit teams now. They're done with you. Night of the Long Knives. And if you guys don't know what that is, you better look it up. They're done with you. You're the SA that helped bring Hitler to power, and now you're going to get knives shoved into your gullets. Okay? They're going to take you, and they're going to kill you, and they're going to poison you, and they're going to slit your throats, and they're going to kill you. Okay? So go ahead and go kill innocent people and bring drugs in and load little kids on C-130s. Just remember, you're all dead too. Okay? You're dead. We'll be right back with more phone calls. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back live.
I don't pay my bills.
Butchering Dave Mustaine as we come in. Say hi to Dave and Pam.
There's a new way.
You know, when he comes to town with Iron Maiden, I'm going to go see that. People are so stupid, they think Iron Maiden's satanic. It's the opposite. That's why they like Dave to play with him, because he's Christian too, and of course, big draw with Gigantor. I was listening to 2 Minutes to Midnight, the anti-abortion song, driving into work this morning. That's very satanic. A lot of those bands they say are satanic are actually the opposite. They're trying to get you to look at what's going on, to be aware of it. The real devil comes disguised as an angel of light. By the way, Kurt Nimmo just posted some breaking news, and this is confirmed. Michael Hastings assassinated for work uncovering surveillance state. The journalist Michael Hastings, who died in what authorities have described as a high-speed car crash, was an active member of Project PM, a crowdsourcing research effort to expose government intelligence creators. Yeah, the big anonymous group has come out and said that they're going to investigate him being murdered, so Anonymous knows what's going on. And we've got that article up on Infowars.com. The login screen for Trapwire, software used for intelligence gathering on U.S. and global citizens, and made public in WikiLeaks data dump. And they've gone public with the fact that he was working on Trapwire with them. And he did have the FBI, quote, following him when his car blew up. I mean, just how much more obvious does this get? And we told you they killed Pat Tillman. And it came out that old McChrystal was over that cover-up, and I'm sure over more than that, and it did turn out he was murdered. And who did Michael Hastings burn? McChrystal, the head of Army Special Operations. That's as gangster as it gets. By the way, we have another former head of Special Operations who said he wanted to come on the show, and I just got so busy I never even called him up. That's how pathetic I am. And a lot of security concerns, though, that the person has to go through every day. I mean, these guys are living in prisons, basically. What a horrible world. I mean, the most insecure thing you could ever be part of is a tyranny. We've taken a free, open society that wasn't perfect, but that was not 1/10 as corrupt, and we have just absolutely burn up our republic. We have pitted it out. We have wrecked it. And what is the establishment doing? They're accelerating down the black hole. I've studied history, folks. I mean, the road we're going down is horrible. Horrible. It will destroy productivity. It will destroy our society. And it's going the way it always does. It's accelerating now. Like you've seen the corruption in the last 50 years intensify, it's going to get more corrupt in the next 5 than it has the last 50. Then it'll get corrupt in the next year after that than in the previous 5. It's like a singularity of evil, a singularity of just orgies of corruption as psychopaths try to get caught and just act out and dominate more and more. This is the criminology. This is the psychology of them. They will destroy themselves because even though they're evil and corrupt, their subconscious mind and their human hardwiring wants them to be destroyed. And they're going to destroy themselves with us right along with them. Not a very pretty picture, my friends. Not a pretty train we're on. We need to get off the train right now. We need to turn this around right now as fast as we can. We'll be right back. Stay with us. All right, we've got a guest coming up in studio on the Second Amendment. I want to continue with your calls. We have another surprise guest that wanted to come on at 1 today, but I don't know if we got in contact with them soon enough to make sure it happens now. It may happen in overdrive or it'll happen tomorrow. But I'm excited about that as well, so who knows what's coming up in this hour. Mouse Link in New York. You want to talk about Ray Kurzweil. Welcome to the airwaves.
Hi, Alex. How are you today?
I'm all right, brother.
Hey, I listen to you a lot, and I think that there's a lot of different ways that you could be described as a libertarian, as a constitutionalist, a lot of different ways that you analyze reality. But the way that I've never heard you described and the way that I'm really starting to come to think of you is as a futurist, maybe the dark futurist. But if you're following futurism news and people like Kurzweil, I've seen Kurzweil speak. I attended the Singularity Summit down in New York City. And I read his book, Fantastic Voyage. There's this, futurism is very much kind of rosy. It's kind of saccharine rainbows. And when people get together and they talk about futurism, I don't feel like there's a lot of realistic discussion.
No, they sell a dystopic transhumanist system that's really eugenics, that's a prison. They're on record in their more internal documents as a wonderful new thing, and they're going to be gods, and if you don't get with the program, you'll be left behind. And he's kind of the high priest of this new religion that they're selling to make it trendy. I'm not even so much a futurist as I'm chronicling what the globalist social engineers are trying to build. You understand? I'm warning people. I sound like a futurist because what I talked about 18 years ago, a lot of it's come true because they're building it. Their blueprints are public. They change things a little bit as they try to accentuate it over time, and they tweak things. But I'm here watching an admitted program that they're trying to build. And it's basically an Elysium-type world. And there's a lot of people in the system warning the public. So I've talked to some of these directors, off record, some of these big films, and they're saying, hey, look, we're awake. We're trying to warn people. This is not propaganda. And then I see it come out in some of these films, and it's not. These people are awake. But they're only allowed to do it in a fiction form, which then the higher level social engineers believe is just preparing everyone's mind. But yes, I think that people say, oh, Jones has a dystopic futurist view. They're building this. I don't want to have them set my destiny and your destiny. We should have a debate about what do we want our destiny to be, Mouse Link.
Well, I totally agree with you, and I think that the fact that you hammer this idea of normalcy bias a lot, I find that to be really useful when I'm talking to people about futurism stuff. The world is changing. It's changing so rapidly, but we all keep acting like it isn't.
You want to say more, or are you done?
I got one other question for you.
Well, stay there. We're going to come back to you, then more people, and we'll see if our surprise guest calls us. Monday through Friday, baby, we're here for 3 hours in the face of the global tyrants as they assassinate and murder people, openly ship in the drugs, give foreign banks $85 billion of our taxpayer money a month, and just are involved in every form of crime. We're desperately trying to get humanity off its knees and to stop worshiping illegitimate authority. The authority in this country is the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. That's what made this country great. What made all the other countries a bunch of knuckle-dragging third-world cesspits is the people were slaves and never had any freedom. Now, we have a big guest that, again, just fell in our lap, who's in another country shooting a big movie. And the shooting went a little bit over, so they're going to be calling in the next 10 minutes, is what I've been told. We'll see if that happens. And then I had another guest who was already scheduled in studio. We'll do an hour overdrive with them because it's so important. And he's on the Nightly News with Jakari Jackson. We just had a caller, if you just tuned in, named Mouse Link, who's been to the Ray Kurzweil events, where he has thousands of people, futurists there, pushing this rosy view of transhumanism. And I'm not saying machines couldn't augment humanity and actually empower us, for the blind to see, to live longer, whatever. I like technology. The problem is that the ghost in the machine that the globalists are programming in, anything we're given is not to augment, but to enslave and to shutter reality. Google Glasses, all of it. That is the direction that this whole system is going. So, at a fundamental level, we need to have a discussion about this. You see the new Matt Damon movie by the great director who grew up in the middle of tyranny in South Africa, of District 8, is got a Matt Damon movie coming out. And I don't like Matt Damon's anti-liberty politics, but I like him as an actor. So it's a paradox. And, we now know the script. He's a slave worker, basically, building robots that are used by the globalists that live in compact cities and space stations, who basically have eternal life, and everybody else is dying of toxic waste and cancer. And when he gets radiated in an accident in the factory, they just tell him, okay, here's your pills, your pain pills, go home and die. And that's actually what they do with the troops. That's what they do with people that are exposed to this stuff. This is how we're seen. It's not going to be in the year 2154 that all of this is going to happen. This is going to happen in the next 25, 30, 40 years everywhere. In China, the three major companies, Foxconn and two others, are now putting in orders with robot factories in China and North America to build 15 million. The first 5 million just got delivered last month. Look it up. 15 million robots are being delivered that are worked on by robots, that are built by robots. And the goal is get us out of the equation. Why are we allowing the engineering of a future where we're not needed? And it's not that things come out so the horse is obsolete because the automobile. This is where things are being designed to where humans will fight for less and less resources, and then the economy will be slowly imploded, and then they'll use the fact that we're poor to social engineer us to get us in line socially for mass extermination via bioweapons. So if you want to know the future, it's 12 Monkeys meets Elysium meets The Running Man meets Brave New World meets 1984. And you ask, why is all the stuff written in the 30s, like Brave New World, why is that what they've now built? Because the writer of that was part of a government genetic engineering program that failed from 1860 until then. Most of the children died or were totally insane. A few had super high IQs, like Aldous Huxley, and his brother Julian Huxley went on to run the UN. And he gave speeches saying, this is the real plan. You go read 1984. That's what, as a British MI6 agent, and before that OSS, that's what George Orwell was told was going to be built. And he gave speeches. And on his deathbed confessed to all this. And you better find out, folks, that all the stuff I talk about isn't coming true because I am psychic. Even though we've all got a little of the touch. It's that this information is all admitted. The decision has been made to build this utopia for the establishment that is a dystopia for us. And we need to get involved and get informed and change society for the better of everybody. And I have no doubt they didn't assassinate this Rolling Stone reporter who we now learn was about to break how bad the NSA spying was. Michael Hastings' car blew up in front of everybody in Los Angeles. It did not run into a tree. And with that incredibly heavy issue, we are joined by someone who's actually on set, and we appreciate him taking time off to come on for some humanitarian purposes in a film that he's promoting, dealing with just unbelievable horse slaughter, but he's also dealing with a lot of other social issues, and that's Viggo of course, Lord of the Rings, Viggo Mortensen, of so many huge films. I am a giant fan. My wife is a huge fan. Everybody I know is a huge fan, and he joins us. Where do you join us from, sir?
I am back in California, first time in many months. I'm actually at a photo lab. I'm working on, I have a publishing company too, and I'm fine-tuning some images for a new publication of ours.
Yeah, I knew that you'd just been on a plane recently, and then we're doing some shoots. Well, it's great to have you with us. Thank you for coming on. There's so much to talk about. I know that you just were given the Dennis Hopper Award at the AM/FM Festival.
Yeah, that was a big honor, and it was a lot of fun. The AM/FM inaugural festival down in Cathedral City by Palm Springs. It was a good event. A lot of really interesting artists and thoughtful people, and people know how to have a good time too. It was probably the most unpretentious film festival or award ceremony I've ever been to. I think it has a great future. I think it's real artists are going to go more and more to that festival, I think.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the broadcast to talk about independent festivals, independent film, music. I know you're a huge supporter of that. What is your view on the growth of independent culture?
Well, it's always been there, and it's always going to be there. It's just how much attention it gets. You know, when people don't hear about it very much, they think it's dead, or they think, artists have sold out or something. But there's people making original art all the time, interacting with each other. The great thing about something like the AM/FM festival down there is that it wasn't just about movies. It was about photographers and painters, sculptors, writers, and there were these gatherings where people would be on stage or in different venues talking about their artwork and getting a lot of ideas from other people working in different, in a different medium. That can inspire you a lot. I mean, I'm someone who I think that the reason that they honored me was not just because I was a friend of Dennis Hopper's and had worked with him in a couple of movies, but because we had a long friendship where we shared a lot of ideas about painting and art and worked together in that, not just acting. And Dennis was always curious. Even towards the end of his life, he would always want to go see a new artist show or a new independent movie. He was curious, and curiosity is something that we all have as kids. It's something that either gets beaten out of you or you somehow become ashamed or are led to be ashamed of the way you draw or your ideas or dressing up or playing make-believe and all that sort of stuff. And I think the function that artists have is to keep people childlike in a positive way, to keep open to the world. And I think that apart from traveling to different countries or different communities, different parts of your city, I think that art is one of the greatest anti-war and anti-poverty weapons there are. When your eyes are open and you see how other people live and how other people think and create, it's a lot less likely that you're going to be convinced by your army captain or your president or your politicians that it's a good idea to go bomb this or that country. It's a good idea to forget about this or that community or this group of people in your own country. I just think that that's something that kids play together. They don't look at what color the other kid is. They don't judge the other kid's drawing. They say, "Oh, you drew that. Let me draw this. Oh, let me show you what you could add to that drawing." Or look at this thing I found. What do you think of this? And comparing in a positive way. I think that's something that kids naturally do. When we get older, I can speak for myself as an artist or as an actor even. The make-believe kids when they're playing, when they're 5, 6, 7 years old, and they believe that they're cowboys or princesses or Robin Hood or Lakota chiefs or whatever they're doing, or Superman or Iron Man. You don't have to direct them. You don't have to say, "Let's do another take," because I didn't really believe that you were convinced yourself.
It's that joy of discovery,
but as actors, when you're adult, you do need a director once in a while to say, "I didn't believe that. Did you believe that? Well, you can do better. Come on." And it's because we get stiff, just like our muscles get stiff. You have to exercise your creative muscles, just like you have to exercise your body.
Well, Viggo Mortensen, international superstar, joins us. I know a few people out in Hollywood, and they've all told me you are the most down-to-earth, cool person they know. You speak, 6, 7 languages. You're a writer, painter, a musician. I've seen some of the amazing YouTube interviews you've done, and there's so much I want to ask you in the limited time. I want to get into the sequel, Rise of the Renegades, dealing with the insanity of what's happening with wild horses with you. But shifting gears, the NSA, what do you make of the fact that just a few years ago people would say, "Oh, it's a conspiracy theory that they're listening to us," and now we learned they're targeting political dissidents. Aaron Swartz was being harassed. We're learning that they're using the IRS against political groups. Do you think there's an awakening happening, or do you think that now the system just doesn't care if we know that we're slaves, basically, Viggo?
I think that there is an awakening. It's good that all these things are being talked about right now, today. But, people have very short attention spans nowadays. The more gadgets we have, the more phones and apps. And it started with the onslaught of cable TV way back when, and then the internet. And the more access we have, you would think the more informed we're going to be and the more connected we're going to be with each other. But people tend to go to the information that supports what they already believe.
Yes.
And so people seem to get more disunited rather than more united, unfortunately. And when I say short attention span, the whole stuff about the NSA or about, the IRS, about the drone strikes. I mean, how much are they talking about drone strikes right now? Not really at all. But like another fad that just went away in the news cycle. And I think the problem is, and I think that politicians count on this, is that people can be, swayed. It's like, here's a piece of cheese, follow this piece of cheese, and go over there and pay attention to that for a while I take care of this other business. The problem with Obama, and I support a lot of things about him, I think he's a very intelligent man. I supported him both times. There wasn't really much of another option, obviously. But the thing is that the people that he appointed right to begin with in 2008, people he announced that were going to be part of fixing the economic disaster that Bush left, were the same people that had caused the problem on Wall Street, for example. So I didn't expect much there. His behavior in foreign policy, whether it be Iraq, Guantanamo, Afghanistan, people still think that Afghanistan is a good war. It's not any more of a good war than Iraq was. It's not any more of a sensible use of our resources and our, young people's lives. And the not to mention the
sure. Well, what about Obama getting a peace prize and then now putting Al Qaeda in Syria?
That's ridiculous. I mean, unfortunately, Obama's government has not really been much different than Bush's in a lot of areas, and not just in foreign policy. Foreign policy is the most egregious. Like if we go into Syria now to try to help get rid of Assad, people in the Arab world aren't going to say, "Oh, isn't that great? The U.S. is doing something good," because the way they have seen the United States, the way they judge the United States, is based on how they behave in the Israel-Palestine situation, the way they have behaved since 1948. And every single president, including Obama, has given special treatment to Israel. And that's obvious to Arab people. So it's going to be hard for us to be considered the good guy, which is something that our government and I think our people, we all want people to like us and think, oh, we're the good guys. We're the guys from World War II that handed out candy bars on the streets of Paris and Rome. We're the guys with the Marshall Plan. People don't see us that way, unfortunately. They see us as the bullies. It's not these Americans that are any nicer or less nice than other people in the world. We're just people. But our government, which represents us,
absolutely
has not been a good player. Very rarely has been a good player overseas.
Viggo Mortensen is our guest. Going back to the NSA here, Peter King, Dick Cheney, others have called for his arrest. There's been news in the Daily Mail where they're talking about killing him. I think that Snowden is a hero leaking the NSA info. Viggo Mortensen, what would you like to say on that subject?
I think he's definitely a very brave person. I also think it's ironic that all the Bush team, attack Obama, in fairness to Obama, for doing exactly the same thing they were doing. I mean, it's pretty hypocritical that behavior. I know this seems like a small thing, but it starts locally. Activism and
I agree.
Common sense community activity. I have to say something about additionally about the AMF on Festival.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Which is that the mayor of Cathedral City, Kathleen De Rosa, she did something very clever, or the government down there, or city council, whatever. They allowed a lot of buildings, and would be as a consequence of what happened in 2008 with the economy and with real estate all over the country. There was a lot of retail space that had been built that businesses just left there, and there's all these empty space in a lot of communities. And what they did in Cathedral City is that they donated or gave very low rent to people who wanted to open galleries and art spaces. And those spaces down there are being used in a really good way, and it's not just that it's nice to look at or it's good to take the kids to see artwork.
Well, that's what made New York the head of culture worldwide, was in the 30s, them doing that.
Exactly, and that proactive stance from the local government down in Cathedral City has not just made life richer for people, but it's also improved the economy. There's people opening, places to eat. There's a lot of activity down there, rather than it just being another urban wasteland.
Well, that's what's great about what you do, Viggo, is you're so down to earth, and you use your mind. You're obviously a really smart guy, and also you're a celebrity to all over the world. You just go around actually trying to help people instead of just going to a photo op and doing it. And it's so exciting. Speaking of a new film, Rise of the Renegades, a sequel to Wild Horses and Renegades, these beautiful horses out there, and I saw in write-ups of the film, I want to see it. And you're out there obviously promoting it, trying to bring attention to this, that they gave the horses to a guy who was going to take care of them and get them homes, who was a known horse meat guy. It's just ridiculous how transparent the government is. Your take on that?
Well, it's a long story, and we probably don't have time for it, but I do recommend you see this movie by James Kleinert. The Bureau of Land Management and government in Washington in general has not had a very good history with wild horses and burros, and it's a lot of attention is being brought to the subject by this film, but also by a lot of other activists. Netta DiMaio is a woman who is tireless, probably has done more than anyone else on the subject, and it's connected to a lot of other things. One of the reasons that they want to get rid of these horses, or what happened during the Bush years when Cheney was in charge of that, was handing out free passes to corporations, whether it was legal or not, to go into protected areas where these horses are to extract resources, and building roads where you weren't allowed to build roads. And the judicial system was so clogged up with all these violations that these people knew that they could go in there and wreak havoc on our public land, which belonged to all Americans, and that it would take years for them to be processed, and they could extract the resources, ruin the place, and move on, and probably later settle out of court or something. It's a big problem. There's a lot of issues involved. It's not just about protecting wild horses, which is a great thing in itself.
So folks need to see the film. We're going to...
I encourage people to see the film, and just put wild horses or wild horses preservation. Do a little homework. That's the great thing about the internet. If you use it wisely, you can learn a lot of things. I learn things every day from it. But as far as the news, the things that you talk about on your program all the time, your listeners will often, I'm sure, be surprised that, really, that's what's going on? And then they'll go look it up. When I say that people tend to go to what they already know, it's what they do. You go look at the news about your sports team, not other sports.
Well, Viggo, my broadcast...
you'll listen to CNN or to Fox, or you'll listen to watch MSNBC or whatever. You'll listen to your show only. I think it's good to... I try to read papers.
I totally agree. Viggo, do 5 more minutes with us on the other side. Sure. Fantastic. And guys, let's boost our audio to him. I can tell he's having trouble hearing us. Because I've been a guest on my own show before and he can barely hear. We'll be right back with Viggo. Stay with us. By the way, I've never talked to Viggo before. I was told that he heard the show sometimes, and I was talking to him during the break. That is the case. I'm very flattered because I am a huge fan of his work. And the rumor was out there last year. I just asked him during the break, Viggo, you were offered the part of Zod and didn't take it?
I wasn't available at the time. Unfortunately, it probably would have been a lot of fun to play that part. Although I have a lot of respect for Terrence Stamp's portrayal, I got to say.
Oh, yeah. I saw him in The Iceman chilling. He's an incredible actor.
He's very good. Yeah, you can't do everything. You just try to follow your instincts. And my philosophy is prepare the best you can for accidents to happen, because they always will. And something good can come out of an obstacle always.
Who knows? Absolutely. But I would love to see you play a villain. I've seen you play like mobsters trying to be reformed and things. Have I missed a film where you're a villain?
Well, I played Lucifer once in a movie called The Prophecy.
That's right. I saw that.
With Chris Walken.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
You never know. I just try to follow my nose. If I like a story, I'll go do it. I don't really think about the budget or or where it's being shot or anything. And, you know, fortunately, since I can speak more than one language, I've been able to work the last couple of years. I did 2 really interesting movies down in Argentina, one that came out recently here called Everyone Has a Plan, where I play twin brothers who don't like each other very much. That was an interesting kind of thriller. And, you know, I'm going to go do a movie that's set in a very interesting... Have you ever seen a movie called Battle of Algiers by Pontecorvo?
I love that movie. It's almost like a documentary. You're watching it and you think it's real.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's set during the fight for independence in Algeria from France, which has been a colonial occupier for 130 years. And imagine if the United States had stayed in Iraq for 130 years straight. That's how fed up the people were there. But it was a complicated subject. Anyway, there's a movie that's being shot that takes place during that period, late 50s, in North Africa this fall. And I'm going to act in that one. And but I got to bone up a little because I have to speak French in Arabic.
I can't wait to see that.
Well, I hope it gets over here. The problem is those little movies have a hard time getting distributed over here. But, you know, I figure if you do your best and you do a good job, eventually it'll get seen somewhere.
Well, we're seeing a resurgence of art house films because of more of the smaller theaters. I just love it. Moving quickly, because I know you've got to go. Bob Anderson, the greatest swordmaster ever, who died last year, said you were the greatest swordsman he ever trained. And I think he said not just in movies. I mean, how good are you with a sword, Viggo?
Well, I'm probably a little rusty now, but that's high praise coming from Bob Anderson. He's a legend in swordmaster circles. He was something else. He's been in movies. He was in the Olympics. That's how he started out as he was a fencing champion and a great person. He was an incredible teacher, very strict sometimes, but he had a good sense of humor, and he was tough, but he was fair, and I learned a lot from him. He's the one who taught me to do all the fighting for Lord of the Rings. That's where I met him, and then I subsequently did a period movie, a big Spanish epic, 17th century, where we fought with 2 blades, with rapier and dagger, and that was
so bottom line, don't get in a knife fight with Viggo Mortensen. I want to give out the name of your publishing company, where you also publish a lot of photos, articles, videos, things you're doing. I've been to the site before. So many great things on there. It's percivalpress.com, and we'll email that out at The Real Alex Jones on Twitter. Going back to what you said right before the break, and then I've got one other question, and I'll let you get out of here, Viggo. You're a real sweetheart to come on with us, your busy schedule. You were talking about getting outside the box. Google admits they now, and YouTube tries to keep you in what they think you like, and they admit to balkanize the population. And I agree with you. The greatest solution...
How do they do that?
They take what your surfing history already is, and they admit then if you're searching or on YouTube or anything they own, then they try to keep you on a digital plantation of only what you're already into.
Yeah, it's true that you have to push yourself. It's the same as getting off the couch and at least going for a walk. It's not always the first thing you want to do. You'd maybe rather stay on the couch and eat another bag of chips, but it's good for you to get out and go for a run or go for a walk or go talk to somebody. Get off the phone, get away from the TV and so forth once in a while, or regularly. And it's the same with looking for, if you're curious about what's going on in your community and what's going on in the world, you got to make an extra effort. Go listen to people and read people that you probably won't agree with, just to get the other side of it. Make up your own mind, because the left, the right, all journalists, all commentators have their spin, have their motivation.
Get out of the rut. Get out of the rut. Expand.
Yeah, make up your own mind. But you got to make an effort. It's not just going to be handed to you by a computer without you making an effort to go look elsewhere.
Wow, Viggo, amazing. In closing, most horror movies, I'm not a horror fan. I like science fiction that has some violence in it or whatever, just because that makes it more real. But since I was a child, no movies have scared me. And I've seen movies before that are, are action adventure, and I'll want to watch them again. The Road touched me like no other film I've ever seen. And because I've studied history and things and had some experiences, it's so real. And I know within 10 days, most people become cannibals in Pentagon studies. In closing, that's a film that I am physically afraid to watch again because of almost the ancestral fears that it rises. And what if there's a nuclear war? What of our atmosphere? What if the road? What can you say about that?
Well, it's true. It's a harrowing experience to watch it, but it's also beautifully made. And John Hill directed that movie, and John did a great job with a tough subject matter. And the boy in it, Cody Smith-McPhee, who's now he's over 6 feet tall. He's a man now, but he was fantastic in that movie. And it's unfortunate that at the last minute they decided not to distribute it as widely as they were going to. But like I say, good work eventually gets seen, and a lot of people on the street, as many people comment on that movie as they do any other movie. It really touched the nerve, and it's kind of like you say, it's a good warning in a way. Like if we don't want to end up that way, you got to take an action.
Well, the most touching part is, in closing, is when Robert Duvall, you and your son are there, and he explains that boy's a god in this ugly, destroyed world. He doesn't say that, but that's what I got in the poetry of it, is that this youth, this energy, the creativity, the green shoots in a dead world. If children are our future, and I mean, what did you take away by that writing?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, I would paraphrase in a way what he was saying, or how I would put it is, children are God. Pay attention. That doesn't mean spoil your kid, or it doesn't mean that you're talking specifically about the kid, but remember what you felt when you were a kid. Remember your creative instincts. Remember your instincts for peace. Remember your instincts for fellowship and for making something beautiful out of life, not destroying the world and not destroying the lives of others, as adults often do, unfortunately. So remember, kids. Remember yourself as a kid, and you're going to be on the right track.
Wow, Viggo Mortensen, you are a beautiful person, and I hope to meet you someday in person. God bless you for sharing your time with us and for trying to help humanity. You're an example to us all, and I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Viggo. Wow, that was a powerful interview. That is really amazing, and it's amazing to know that we've touched Viggo, that he listens to the show. And it's just another example of how many amazing people there are out there that know what's happening. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, I've read too many accounts of war and collapsed society. Seeing something like The Road, that movie it's like Godfather 1, where it's like it's real, or the Battle for Algiers he mentioned. You watch that and you think it's a documentary. It's done so good. And there's parts of Godfather where it's not magic like that. The Road is magic from the start to the end, and Viggo is an artist. Man, I'm having a good day right now. Talking to Viggo off air too, man, that is awesome. That is awesome, and we're influencing him. He's influencing us, and he explained. Will you guys bring the chair in and bring the next guest in, who I apologize to? Is he here, or is he doing the interview with Jakari? He's here. Let's bring in our guest, who I apologize, moving him so Viggo could come on. I heard last week that Viggo would be happy to come on, but then he had to go down to Argentina, and he was coming back, so he couldn't do the video interview. And he also doesn't do interviews when he's in character shooting a film. Then I said, whatever. If he wants to come on, we'll hear from him. And we heard from him this morning, and so that happened. And next time I'm out in L.A., and he's out there. I'm invited out to L.A. a lot. I still have time to go out there. I need to get out to L.A. There's a lot of unfinished business. The Joe Rogan podcast, a bunch of TV interviews I got to do, a couple people I got to meet with, and people like Viggo Mortensen. I mean, that is just unbelievable. Because I could care less about getting some Hollywood star on that I don't admire, and I don't admire many of them. But that's a guy that turned down the role for Zod. I mean, think about that. And I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I need to get my folder on our next guest. We're going to go into overdrive with, and who I want to apologize to, but I think you can understand getting moved for Viggo Mortensen. This guy I'm a fan of. I see him do these open carry demonstrations. I see him on the news. I see him in town hall debates nationally and locally. And this is a guy who is a leader, Michael Cargill, and he lives here in Austin. I'll just do it right here on air. But you're going to have to kind of chase us because we get so busy we forget. I'd like to invite you once a week to come in and do a gun report for us. Hell of a way to meet you. I'm like, get in here and come work for us right now. Michael Cargill. And, of course, he's one of the honchos over there at Central Texas Gunworks.com. And he spent 12 years in the U.S. Army and studied criminal justice at the Troy State University. And while he was in the Army, he was awarded the Army Commendations Medals, 8 Army Achievement Medals, and 4 Army Good Conduct Medals. I'm not going to go through his whole bio. We'll run out of time with him. He's a qualified expert marksman, both in rifle and hand grenades, and is an airborne qualified parachutist. And I hope they don't send him to assassinate me. I'm joking. We were talking about the Army earlier. And after his honorable discharge, he works in telecommunications and now works in the Second Amendment and everything else. And he just does a lot of amazing work managing huge accounts. I'm not going to get into your whole bio. It's a very interesting bio, and we're just excited to have you here. You're an NRA-certified safety range instructor, officer, and just defend the Second Amendment while we've got you here. And it's very exciting to see us defeating their last raft of gun grabbing. But I'm concerned after the next event, they're going to come after us yet again. So, Michael Cargill, good to have you here, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that.
You bet. We're going to have you on the Nightly News with Jakari Jackson tonight, too, as well. So, again, wow, so much going on. Well, what would you say is the state of our Second Amendment?
I tell you, well, we have a serious problem here, especially after the midterm elections. I actually expect this current administration to come after our Second Amendments again, for sure. Oh, yeah, they've said.
I mean, that's what don't pause or I'll talk over you the whole time, man. The gargoyle up there, Senator Feinstein said, there will be other events, and then she smiled.
Right. And see, the reason I got into this business in the first place is back when I was in the military, my grandmother at 70 years old decided that she was going to travel back to college to get a college degree. My grandmother only got a high school education, so at 70, she wanted to become a nurse. And while my grandmother was traveling back from a college library, sitting at a bus stop waiting for a bus to come, a guy came along, mugged her, and raped her.
Oh, my gosh.
And I decided at that point that I would make sure that every female in my family had the tools they need to protect themselves.
Is that scumbag in prison?
No, he is not, unfortunately. But I think
he's not going to fall down and hit his head, is he?
No.
Everybody rapes my grandmother,
Right, I know. And I just want to empower women to defend themselves because they can't have a police officer on their backs 24/7.
Exactly. These feminists are against women having guns. They're not feminists. They're scum.
Exactly. 100%. And so that's why I support the Second Amendment. I support all our constitutional rights, but I really, I'm pushing for the Second Amendment.
Well, there's also this thing with women that they go, oh, I wouldn't be good with guns. Women, as you know, statistically are as good or better than men with guns.
Right. And I'm totally...
Have you found that as an instructor?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. It takes me about 2 minutes to get, I sit there and talk to a lady and coach her into what to do, what to look for, and then bam, she hits it, hits it right out of the park, and it will do a lot better than the men in our class.
Well, that's what we see in Olympic shooting. They're as good as the best men at shooting, and just generally women are easier to train in firearms.
Right. I agree 100%. Yeah.
Oh, I tell you, we had, it doesn't matter, we had a rock star's daughter out with a shooting out at Steiner Ranch, the real Steiner Ranch, and she was like shooting bullseye at 300 yards with a Lapua that we hadn't even sighted in properly, and immediately. And we were all shooting around it till we got it sighted in. It's like instinct. She was shooting even though it wasn't sighted in properly. Right. We were like, how are you doing this? It's like,
yeah, I tell people, it takes me about, 9 hours and 45 minutes to actually sit there and talk to a person and teach them how not to pull that gun out. But it takes me all of a good 5 minutes to actually teach them the actual specifics of...
Exactly. A good gun trainer will teach you when to use the gun. That's the key.
Right.
It's not even about... They've mystified guns.
Right.
Like in these movies where you shoot a .357 and it blows you back. I mean, I can shoot 250 cal standing up. It's hard to pick them up, but if I can pick them up, I can shoot them both.
Correct. And they always focus on the wrong things, They're focusing on on, targeting lawful gun owners rather than just the criminals. And it's about, getting rid of these criminals and empowering the people. It's not like where the president is from, Chicago, Illinois. They call it land of Lincoln. I like to call it land of the lawless. Those failed gun laws in Connecticut didn't work for them in Connecticut. The failed gun laws in Chicago, Illinois are not working for them there, and they're not going to work for us here in Texas.
Man, I don't know who these guys are that go around raping women. I mean, how does it even come in your mind to want to do that? And I just want to see them all get killed.
Right.
I mean, let me tell you, somebody does something to my wife, they're going to get a snub-nose 357 pulled out, jammed in their chest, and they're dead.
Right. And it's important that we educate, our community and how to empower themselves to protect themselves, because we shouldn't need law enforcement, to hover over us and protect us. It's not about, I want government to get out of our business, get out of the people's business, and government should be transparent so we can see what's going on with government, but then the people's business should be private.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I want you to reenact what I saw you in a town hall that was local, but then it went national, and you were in there just tearing them up the other day. That was you I saw, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just remembering because I said, get that guy. I'm always saying, get him. Why haven't we got him yet? They're like, Jakari interviews him all the time. So I'm like, so here you are. What do you want to talk about when we come back? Because I'll consider and ask questions all day.
Right. Well, I think, we need to get our federal government to focus on the correct things. Stop focusing on universal background checks. As a gun store owner, I actually should be in support of universal background checks. But I'm against universal background checks. I'm against having the federal government get involved in private sales.
That's right. I should add, you're the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, aren't you?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And that's a great outfit. I never have time to go up there, but I'm going to do it. CentralTexasGunworks.com. If you're in Central Texas, get over there and get some shooting in today. Well, Michael Cargill is the American dream. He's got a big shooting range, big gun store, very popular, one of the most successful people in Central Texas. And you can go to CentralTexasGunworks.com and also CargillForConstable.com. What's going on with that?
We're actually not running the constable race anymore. That was something that we did last year.
Just to educate people.
Right. We were actually running against Don Ballesteros, a.k.a. the cocaine constable. And he actually, when he used to work for DPS, he allowed 4,000 kilograms of cocaine to cross over from Mexico to the United States. So DPS actually fired him. And then he actually got a job for the constable and then eventually ran for constable. And so we actually ran against him in that election. But since I ran as a Democrat, and since I was a Second Amendment supporter, and the local leadership in the Democratic Party decided that they were not going to support me in that race because of my
disgusting.
Right, my Second Amendment stance.
Doesn't matter though. You got to expose them.
Right.
That's what matters.
Yes. So we exposed him.
And that's what it's about. I mean, a lot of times running is about getting on the news and fighting the New World Order.
Right.
What is your view on politics worldwide?
Well, I think we need to get out. The president promised that our people would actually, our troops would return home. He would bring the troops home, and he has not held up to that promise. And
they're still in Iraq, and they said they withdrew. They didn't.
Yes, and we need to return our troops back to the United States. We need to take care of the United States, take care of our people here.
You're like a Ron Ball type guy, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Because I've heard you on the radio and stuff. I just don't want to speak for you.
Oh, yes, sir.
You're like in the extremist club, basically.
Well, you
love freedom, mom and apple pie. You're a bad guy.
Well, my motto is, when they come for your guns, give them your bullets.
Absolutely, and that's why we're fighting so hard. For me, it's the line in the sand. It's slavery. I mean, I'm not bringing this up because you're black. I bring it up all the time. The first gun laws, as you know, were against black people in the South.
Yes, sir.
After the Civil War on record, and then they have all these commentators on BET and CNN and Fox, black and white and Hispanic, saying the NRA's the Klan, and I mean, where do they? That's the opposite of the reality.
Oh, no, exactly. The exact opposite. The National Rifle Association focuses on training. They may not be as extreme as some people would like them to be because they're, trying to work that political process.
But they're sure not the Klan.
Exactly. They're not the KKK.
But, I mean, that's obvious. I don't know why they don't. I'm not a sue guy, but at a certain point, you got to sue people.
Right.
I mean, I'm surprised Fox hadn't been sued for them having their people on there saying the NRA is the Klan and wants to kill black people. How do you come up with that?
Well, the people they need to focus on is the current administration, because this administration wants to come up with universal background checks. When you do universal background checks, what that's going to do is First of all, we have over 1 million people that are locked up in jail right now in this country. Out of that 1 million people, the majority of them are African Americans. So when you come up with any new laws, new gun laws, those laws are going to focus on that community.
Oh, you know they are.
Exactly. And you're going to give the police more power to come after those people and put more blacks in jail. So
who need the guns to protect themselves.
That is correct. So this president will actually be the person that is more responsible for putting more black people in jail instead of doing the exact opposite.
Well, look at what he's doing with AFRICOM, invading Africa, and they're not there to help, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's unbelievable what they get away with. I tell you, it is unbelievable. And not that I like John McCain or, you know, the other guys that he ran against, Mitt Romney. It's that there's no choice. It just gets worse and worse. But with Obama, this is a guy raised by the weathermen. I mean, it's just creepy.
Right. And you got to be careful because one of his big supporters is a gun guy. You know, he's being supported by a gun manufacturer. So you got to be careful with that, too.
Who is?
The president.
Really?
One of his big supporters.
Who is that?
Oh, man, I can't even think of the name right now. I apologize. But
no, I forgot. I remember reading that. I forgot. You forgot. That's why I was asking you. Right. Michael Cargill is coming up. We're going to take your phone calls all over the map, but then let's get some gun calls in here. Very exciting to have a pro-Second Amendment person in studio with us. We've got Second Amendment advocate par excellence, Michael Cargill of Central Texas Gunworks.com. And I know the caller's been holding before Viggo Mortensen was on. Aragorn of Arathorn. But we are going to go to your phone calls. Mouse Link, who's been patiently holding, I want to get his comment and questions. Melinda, Frank, Aaron, it'll be all over the map. And then we'll open the phones up for everybody that calls in after that for Second Amendment points with our guest. But, Michael, I was riveted by the town hall meeting I saw you in. You were really tearing those people up. And I love how they take a few anti-gun politicians and call them moms against guns, like moms are against guns. They're not against the government having guns.
No, and the main goal of these people is actually to strip us of our gun rights. You know, we asked the young lady that was sitting next to me, you know, what were some of the things that she wanted to do, and she said her main thing is she didn't believe that anyone should be able to have access to firearms. So yeah, there's you know, and what do you say to a person like that? You know, and I told her that some of the things that we need to focus on, as far as Travis County and the state of Texas, we need to focus on. You know, I get a person that will walk into my gun store, and that person would want to sell me a gun. And then, do you know that there's no way for a gun store to verify if that gun is stolen or not? You know, so those are some of the things they need to focus on. They're always focusing on the wrong things. They're always focusing on individuals and private.
Well, that's because they're all getting kickbacks out of it. That's what the pawn shops are for.
Right.
I mean, I can drive down to a mile from here and show you drugs being sold. Cops drive right by it.
Right. Right. And it's funny you say that because I actually, you know, contacted, you know, the local law enforcement. I also contacted the mayor's office and said, hey, you know, what can we do about this problem with someone walking into the gun store wanting to sell a gun and me, a gun store owner, being able to verify if that gun is stolen or not. While that person standing right there at the counter, I can actually call the.
They don't want to make citizens proactive to then call and check and see if it's stolen to shut down the stolen gun market.
Exactly.
They don't want real solutions.
Exactly. No.
Why do they want us to live like in Chicago?
Honestly, I do not know. And you know, next thing they're going to do is they're going to send National Guard into Chicago. And,
yeah, they're saying that now.
Right.
But I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I'm bad about that. What did the city council do when you wanted a real plan?
Well, I let them, you know, I told them, here's our situation. Here's what's going on. You know, a pawn shop, they have rules. They do certain things. But a gun store, you walk into a gun store, you try to sell a gun. The gun store, you know, can't dial, you know, the local law enforcement and verify that serial number to see if that gun's used in a crime or reported stolen or anything like that. And you know, the response I got was, I'm sorry. I know you're trying to run an honest business, but there's nothing that we can do about it.
And again, they should just have a program where stolen guns, people can tell the police, put it in a database.
Right.
And do you ever have what, you know, look like meth heads or crack heads come in that are obviously super seedy, have a weird story, and you refuse to buy a gun?
Yes, we've had that situation happen probably about a month ago. A young man walked into the store, and he was really high-strung, and he wanted to buy a gun. He actually wanted to buy a gun to kill somebody. And he actually told that to someone down the street there in a sporting goods store, and they sent him to us. And so when he walked into the shop, my staff actually contacted me, and I hit the silent alarm. We had the police show up, and they actually pulled him out and sent him to do a medical eval done. But that does happen, you know, and it's up to it's our responsibility as citizens to, you know, protect us, you know, from things like that.
Obviously out of his mind.
Right, right.
Walking in, I need a gun to kill somebody.
Right.
And the other stores then send them to you.
Right.
Oh, no, go to him. It's
right.
Cowards, see?
Right.
That's another thing. Most people are such cowards now, or not everybody, but a large segment, that they just never stand up to bad guys. So they just run rampant.
Yes, sir. I agree with you 100%. So that's why it's up to the people, you know, to protect ourselves. We need to arm the people. And it's like I said, when they come for your guns, I say give them your bullets.
What did the guy do I want to hear when the cops showed up? What did he do?
Well, when they showed up, they actually pulled him outside. When they pulled him outside, about 10, you know, officers showed up. Someone else and his family showed up. There was a big fight outside in the parking lot, not in my shop. It's up to me to make sure that the people in my shop, in my
I want to hear this. Hold on. We're going to break. Michael Cargill, that heads up CentralTexasGunworks.com. It's in South Austin, right off Ben White, right by Chuck E. Cheese. Got a bunch of Marine Corps former instructors in there, and all I hear is great stuff. In fact, he's like, yeah, we cleaned a couple of your 50 cals. We're a big gunsmith, too. Because I never have time to mess with this stuff. Weldon took him in there. Those are some pretty rifles, huh?
Oh, yeah. They want to test them for you.
So you liked them?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, well, it's good to have you here with us. We've got callers calling in that are all over the map, and I want to go to some of them. But more about that town hall I saw you on TV with last week and how they use this playbook. I mean, this is all about disarming us. Did you see the video we got of the mayor pro tem at the Capitol where people had signs saying no gun ban? And he said, listen, after we get them registered, you're going to need that sign, then we will confiscate them. But we're not doing that now. That's next. Feinstein, all of them are on record. They want our guns. And they're so disingenuous when they're on CNN going, we don't want your guns. I mean, it should be game over. They're disingenuous, and I think that's why they're losing their gun control debate, because people know they're a pack of scum.
Right. They're actually traveling around the country trying to find out different ways to come after individual firearms. And I tell them, focus on the things that you can actually control, you know, those little things. You know, why don't you go after where the criminal's located? You know, we don't need gun control. We actually need criminal control. You know, and I'm not giving you my firearms. You're not going to get them. You come after my firearms, you knock on my door, I'm giving you my bullets first.
Which 50 cal do you like, the Navy version or the Army standard?
I like the Navy version. That was actually pretty nice.
Well, we got to take you out shooting sometime, man.
Yes, sir.
I'm just so busy. I want to do the gun show. I shot like 3 shoots with the Steiners, 3 great videos coming out soon. But it's going to be about us out there with 50 cals trying to figure them out, never shooting those particular ones. I had them for a long time. Now the price has gone up so much. Thank God I got them a while back. But if Obama has done anything, they have certainly woken people up, and I think it's backfired on them.
Yes, because they're not focusing on safety. They're actually focusing on, you know, taking people's Second Amendment rights. It's about control and not about safety at all. If they focus on the safety aspects of it, they focus on the things that they can do within the ATF and the FBI in that system. Focus on mental health. Those are the things that they can actually control. But they're not focusing on that. They actually want to just go after individuals' guns. And like a person gets deployed overseas, instead of sending troops home, we've got troops deployed around this world. And when our troops come back, they're actually labeling them with PTSD. And then once they label them with PTSD, then they want to take their firearms away from them. And then all of a sudden go back and redeploy them again. But take your firearm away from you while you're at home, but you're okay to fight when you're overseas.
That is unbelievable. I've seen that.
Yes.
Well, look, I mean, any corrupt regime wants to go after the veterans. Hitler did it.
Yes.
He had Night of the Long Knives, where he went after hundreds of thousands of soldiers and people. And this is what Stalin did that, Lenin did that, Mao did that. I mean, the police and military better be the first ones to figure out that they better get on board with the people and just say no to tyranny. And I see that happening. Between 40 and 50% of the troops I run into are listeners, and they say most of the people in their units are awake to the New World Order. What are you hearing?
I'm hearing the exact same thing. We need to bring our troops home. We need to pay attention to what's going on in our federal government. Listen to what, your commander-in-chief is saying. Bring our troops home. Bring them home. That's all I can stress enough. Bring them home.
But the globalists have a problem if the military is awake. And how is it going to fly saying the troops are the #1 terror threat with no evidence of that in these new training manuals?
No, I disagree with that.
But it's asinine. It's like saying Mary Poppins is the terror threat.
Right. No.
How about the crooks in government saying that are the problem?
Yes, government's definitely going to be the problem. Like I said, government should be transparent. We need to be able to see what government is doing, and the people's business should be private.
Amazing. What is your concern? Because I know you're really on this issue at the Capitol. I mean, that's why I like it. I always see you popping up. You're at the lead fighting this tyranny, and they're trying to now just label people to take our rights away. How do you think they're going to come at us next time?
Well, just like we were talking about with the town hall meeting, you have a situation where a young man was at the Virginia Tech shooting. And the guy walks in, the madman walks into the room and starts shooting. Well, he didn't get shot. So he picks up the only weapon that he had, which was his cell phone. He dials 911 on his cell phone. The shooter leaves the room, goes into a different room, shoots people in that room. And he's on the phone for about 20 minutes with the 911 operator. The shooter comes back into the room, starts shooting again. Only thing he could do is turn around and run. So he gets shot in the rear, trying to run from the shooter. As he goes down, a girl next to him grabs his phone and talks to the 911 operator for quite a while. Shooter leaves the room, goes out the room. Shooter comes back to the room, continues shooting. And they will sit here and they will tell you that they don't think that a concealed handgun license holder would have, been able to do anything about that situation.
Well, I just grimaced involuntarily when you were telling that story, because I remember covering it at the time. And I'm not just saying this because I've been in situations where people have knives and stuff and I went after them. But it's actually a fear thing. I like attack instead of run. It's what I do. And because that feels a lot better. I can't do the other thing. It's actually a problem I have. And I was imagining if I was that guy, I know, because I know about guns, if I'd have seen the guy turn his back or he's around the corner, I would have gone and hidden there, or I would have grabbed a desk and, ran towards him. And that happens a lot of times now where people do tackle shooters.
Correct.
I just can't imagine people getting in fetal positions to be killed. I mean, if you're going to kill me anyways, I'm going to fight you.
Right.
I mean, what would you have done if you were there? I mean, I know you're not trying to say you're a macho guy, but you're a paratrooper and stuff. I mean, I think most Texans I know, you see it, if somebody pulls a gun out, people try to stomp them.
Right.
Susanna Hupp's dad tried to go stop the guy and rushed him and got shot.
Exactly.
At the Lubies, why not have them have guns?
Exactly. We need to empower the people. The people need to be empowered. The people in Chicago need to be empowered. They don't need law enforcement because law enforcement is not doing it.
The more they hire, it doesn't do anything.
Exactly. Empower the people and return that power back to the people so the people can protect themselves.
I mean, look at Chicago, where only the government has guns and the criminals. It's hellish.
And it's 1 mile from the president's residence. 1 mile. That's where the majority of that crime takes place.
What is it, 530-something people a year shot there?
Right.
Killed. And there's something like 3,000 shot? I mean, that is...
So what you have a situation of the criminals having the guns and your law-abiding citizens are at home cowering down, hiding because they can't go and purchase that firearm to protect themselves.
And the thing is, Chicago, I've been there a lot. I have family who lives up there. It's a nice city.
Right.
I mean, it's a famous city. Why have they allowed this?
And that is the last state that does not have a concealed handgun license program. I know they're working on something right now, and hopefully they will come up with something.
Take Dallas. I mean, I remember when they first put the concealed carry in, it was 2 days after it had gone in, people had been able to do the program, and the first were issued a few months into it. There was a carjacking that were happening all the time. I grew up in Dallas. It was dangerous.
Right.
There was a carjacking on Central Expressway during stop-and-go traffic, and a guy was dragging a lady out of a car, and a guy stepped out behind and shot the guy dead. And then immediately the carjackings just stopped because now there were guns.
Right. And we need to learn something from Texas. The rest of the country can actually take this message where, we started our concealed handgun license program here in Texas back in 1995. Our crime actually dropped dramatically here in the state of Texas.
Wasn't it 25%?
Yes. And you have your stats. For the year of 2011, you have over 63,000 people were convicted of crimes in the year of 2011. Out of that 63,000, only 120 were CHO holders. So the program that we have here actually works for us. Our CHO holders are law-abiding citizens. They're not the people that are going to...
Well, let's just say it. Statistically, they're even better than the police because you've got psychos and criminals, not all of them, but 20% or so they estimate in criminology. That's a fact.
Right.
Who want to become cops. They want to do it so they can get away with crime, be a better criminal. You don't have that with CHL because the criminals just carry a gun anyways. They like committing the crime.
Right. Why go all through that trouble of getting a license, doing the background check, paying all the fees just to commit a crime when you can just go and grab the gun and commit the crime?
So the CHL are the best people.
Yes.
And they've been looking for problems and they just can't find them.
And it's because CHL holders have been vetted, and these people want to do the right thing and protect themselves and their family.
Well, it just shows they're people with common sense.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What is, for people that don't know, in Texas, but also in other areas, what is the current law on carrying loaded firearms in your vehicle?
Well, in the state of Texas, you can have a loaded handgun in your vehicle without a license. It must be concealed in the vehicle. Now, prior to 2007, you had to be traveling from one county to another. Well, after that, 2007, everyone became, everyone's traveling. So it became legal to have a loaded handgun in your vehicle. It must be concealed in the vehicle as long as you're not committing a crime. Anything greater than a Class C misdemeanor, that's an ordinance regulating traffic, or the gun is not openly. It's not open.
But the problem is you got to get out of your car.
Correct. Once you get out of that vehicle, unless you're traveling to and from your home, then you must have a CHL.
I tell you, it's even pointless to even have laws on this. The criminals aren't going to follow anything anyways. I mean, it's just pointless.
Right.
Well, you know, me personally, I've never had time to go to the concealed carry, but I think I'm going to take it from you. And you know, my wife obviously knows the law. She's a good shot, able to do it. She hasn't had time to go do it. We've got to go do it. Myself, of all people, back before that law, I just carried a rifle in my car.
Okay.
But then with children, when you're putting them in the car, I'd put it in the trunk. Or if I was getting death threats, you know, then I'd put the shotgun up in the front with me. But that was only a few times when I had people actually after me. I want to get into those whole stories here on air. But the point is I go to, like, places that don't even have security. I kind of don't worry about it. But it's almost like I have a responsibility to go get a concealed carry just to be there in case I see a crime being committed. It's almost like a dereliction of a citizen's duty to not be armed.
Right. You need to be armed. You need to know what the laws are, know what you cannot do to keep yourself and your family out of trouble and to keep them safe.
I want to come back and take phone calls all over the place. We'll do a whole hour overdrive with our guests. We're going to go to MouseLink, Melinda, Frank, and Aaron, and Teresa. I'll get to all of you. I apologize you've been holding so long. But, hey, you got to hear Viggo Mortensen. Hey, did you ever think you'd be following Viggo Mortensen on the radio?
Oh, no, sir. That's pretty amazing. That is really...
And he's what you call kind of a real liberal. But the point is we're getting him to think about what we're saying,
right.
and then we're thinking about what he's saying, getting outside those boxes and having true diversity. We'll be right back with our guest. I'm Alex Jones. I really appreciate the callers holding so long, Melinda and MouseLink and everybody. I'm going to you right now. Then we're going to get more into the Second Amendment, take Second Amendment calls in the balance of the hour with the proprietor of CentralTexasGunworks.com. He owns a gun shop, a gun range, a gunsmith shop. It's very popular. Everybody I know tends to use it here in South Austin. And then he's out there politically fighting for your freedom. That's what we need to see from gun shop owners. Not, oh, I'm not political. The ATF will come harass me. I'm going to talk to you about that coming up. But right now, let's talk to MouseLink, who's been a real trooper holding. MouseLink, you had a question. Go ahead.
Well, given the current conversation you guys are having about guns and the Second Amendment, I thought we could segue from the futurism stuff that we were talking about earlier into 3D printing. I think I was the first guy to bring up this issue on your program, talking to Mike Adams some months ago. And I just wondered if your guest had anything to say on that subject.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I know Cody Wilson really well. I've actually I've gone to eat lunch and dinner with Cody quite a few times, and we sit back and we talk about the 3D printing and how it's not just about the 3D printer gun. It's about the access to that machine and for the people being able to do whatever they want in their home, because that is your home and that is your property. The federal government, the government needs to keep up with technology.
Well, they're using the international lines, but he's in Texas. He should be able to do whatever he wants with the Liberator gun, a 380 that they dropped over France to resist. I mean, what, people can't have in their own home and build a 380 single shot?
Yeah, so if you want to sit at home and build whatever, you know, if you want to build something to...
But anybody could build a gun that knows basic metallurgy.
Yeah, and their concern is about it getting through the metal detectors. Well, you know what? I guess they need to step up their efforts on technology to keep up with, you know, just like, you know, you have your Facebook, you have your online things. The government's got to keep up with what's going on. And so they're going to have to keep up with the 3D printing as well.
Well, the answer is if somebody sneaks one through, the pilots are armed. You're going to trust them to fly this plane but not have a gun?
Right. Well, there's no way you can legislate crazy.
Absolutely. Mouse Link, thank you for calling. Good to hear from you. Melinda in Florida, thank you for holding. You're a trooper. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Alex, for taking my call. I had called on a different subject, but I'm going to talk about what you're talking now.
No, bring up your immigration thing. You're polite. You can get into the gun thing after. Bring up the immigration.
Well, I had called about an hour or so ago about the immigration thing in terms of the illegal immigrants that come into Southern California. I'm originally from Southern California, born and raised. The neighborhoods that I was raised in were, American, mostly ethnically black. That's what I am. Over the course of 20, 30 years, those neighborhoods are now gone. We've been chased out, and now we are getting racist attacks by certain Latino Americans who do not like African Americans, and they're killing us. And
well, that actually came out. That actually came out even in mainstream news that you're having like 15, 20, 30 to 1. The Hispanic gangs killing blackbirds, or mayatas is the term. And again, all the Hispanics I know aren't like that, but it is an issue that in Latin America, things are based on gangs killing each other, Latin killing Latin. And if America doesn't have a gang culture around liberty and freedom and justice, it's like we don't have an immune system politically, and then groups come in that are gang-oriented, and it's politically incorrect to say anything about it. That is a big issue. And so, and then government also coming in and putting everybody on welfare has destroyed congruent communities. I mean, what was it like to see this happen in Southern California?
It's a huge issue, Alex. I've been speaking, talking to people in my area to the point where I went to college, graduated, trained actually to be a teacher. I decided not to be a teacher because I saw what was going to be the blueprint on the wall, and I had my own children to take care of. I'm a homeschool mom, been homeschooling for well over 20 years. And I have educated and talked to other moms, I don't care what race they are, Hispanic, whoever they are, to get their children out of the indoctrinated schools here that want to dumb them down and don't want to teach them anything and pertains to how to just live and be human. And pertains to what your guest is talking about, my sons have been raised because they're homeschooled to protect humanity. My sons are out for the good. They are out for the good guy. If someone is being assaulted, somebody's being hurted, and they're the bad guy. It's not about race. It's not about color. It's not about anything. If you are a human being, then
exactly. But the system does use it from every angle, and it's a nightmare situation. What was your comment on guns?
My comment on guns is that as a female who as a very small-sized female, can't afford to be tussling with men and other people. Yeah.
Stay there. I want to come back to you and then get your take on this because it's the equalizer. I mean, I've got 2 daughters, and women in my family are pretty tough, so they're going to be tough. It doesn't matter. They need to be able to have a gun to protect themselves from criminals. Michael Cargill, entrepreneur, Army veteran, patriot. You can go to centraltexasgunworks.com and find out about what he's doing. It's a great website, a lot of pro-Second Amendment info there. And if you're in Central Texas, he's not a sponsor, but I'm plugging it. Go in there. We're going to go back to this lady, Melinda, to finish her story and get your take on that in a moment. But you were telling me during the break, your real passion is getting women armed and trained so they can protect themselves and equalize. And that is an incredible thing. Think about the civil rights, the human rights, the God-given right of self-defense, and empowering women who for thousands of years have been dominated by bad men. Now you're empowering them. I would think Gloria Steinem and all these so-called liberals would be screaming from the rooftops to arm women.
Yeah, I applaud Melinda because it's about empowering women to protect themselves and making it that equalizer. When you're walking from that building, going to your vehicle or whatever it is, you have tools within your means to protect yourself because you cannot have that law enforcement officer there to help you at all.
Yeah, and it's just common sense, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I tell you, I love having the women come to our class at Central Texas Gun Works because the women, they listen and they want to do the right thing, and they actually come out shooting a lot better than the men. What
do you think's going to end up happening long term? Because you seem like a pretty smart guy who's got his ear to the ground. What's your gut on whether they'll be successful or not? Because when they wanted to get our guns, They were demonizing the Second Amendment. Now that they've lost for now, they're like, we never wanted your guns, so we all go back to sleep. But I don't see that happening, but I don't see them stopping. So it's like two freight trains speeding down the track towards each other. What do you think is going to happen?
I think after the midterm elections, they're going to actually come back again. A second time, a second win, because this president, the current administration is not going to let this go. They took a big hit, and he made a promise that to the Democratic Party that he was going to do something about guns, and so he's gonna come after them. He's definitely going to come after them.
Why do you think they want our guns?
It's about control. It's about control and controlling individuals. It really needs to be about safety, and they've lost that target, that eye on the picture there.
Plug CentralTexasGunworks.com. If, let's say you're a woman out there or a man or somebody who hasn't been around guns, you believe all the stuff from Hollywood and mystifying it. How do you demystify it? How does somebody come in and take a basic gun safety class from you?
Well, we actually focus on training. We don't focus on, mainly selling the guns themselves. I want a person to come in. They want to learn safety. They want to learn how to keep their family safe. They want to learn that, we have a penal code 46.13 that says that if you allow your child to get access to a firearm, in the state of Texas, they're going to come after you and charge you with the crime. So we focus on that training and teaching them about the laws, making sure they're safe, making sure their kids safe, because you don't want your son actually going and sitting with your neighbor's son. We don't want Dumb and Dumber getting together learning gun safety. I want them learning that in our beginning handgun course, or our concealed handgun course, or advanced pistol course.
Sure.
And then once you get that concealed handgun license and you're ready to carry to protect yourself and your family, it's about how are you going to deploy that firearm? How are you going to get it out of your concealed carry position? Whether you're a lady and you're carrying it inside your purse, how are you going to get that gun out to protect yourself if needs be? Because you may only have 4 seconds to draw that firearm. And so those are some of the things that we go over and we teach you.
You can always tell when women are carrying one because they'll put their purse around kind of on the front.
Yeah, they walk with confidence. And you don't want to mess with that person, And I give them some pepper spray. I make sure that every female that attends our course gets some free pepper spray. So I'll give them that because I say, if something happens, you have some pepper spray, you get a stun gun or something like that, and something happens, you give them a good shot in the face of that pepper spray. That gives you a couple seconds to get to your gun. That gives you a couple seconds to run away, and protect yourself.
Well, it's that threat continuum,
right?
Where you don't want to just because somebody runs up and says something, you shoot them.
Right.
No, it's like once they start coming at you, then it's the pepper spray, and if they keep coming, that's
right. Getting a good shot of pepper spray in the face, like I said, that gives you a couple seconds to run away, or gives you a couple seconds to get to your gun.
Well, what's amazed me is I've heard you on local radio, seen you on TV. Some of our reporters out at the gun rallies have interviewed you, Jakari and others. But I just keep hearing people talk about Central Texas Gun Works. It's like Weldon goes, you don't think you're really cleaning these guns good, boss. You may take them to a great gunsmith I know. And then I didn't even realize that was you till you told me. And then I heard other people talking about Central Texas Gun Works. You guys must be pretty busy.
Yes, we stay pretty busy because we focus on training and customer service. People are tired of walking into that gun store and
they act arrogant, like you don't know anything.
Correct, and feeling uncomfortable. We actually, have females that work for us.
What is it about service places that are selling things that don't know how to give people hospitality?
I don't know.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, and so, we want to give them that good customer service. I have a wide range of people that work for me. Like I said, I have military veterans. I have females. And we're a nice, good, and close-knit family, and we believe in taking care of people and actually teaching them safety and the laws.
Well said. Very exciting. Let's go back to Melinda in Florida. Again, we commend you for having firearms, protecting yourself. That's awesome. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on that subject?
Well, absolutely. I just want to commend what your guest has said, and I would love to train under him just to know what to do the right thing to protect my family, and not only my family, but my neighbors. I believe that as a female, being with our small stature and our small size and the fact that we have groceries and kids and babies, we really don't have a lot of time to be fighting other men and other bad guys, and we need to be able to have the drop or any sort of advantage that we have to be able to get the bad guys off of us,
exactly.
No matter who they may be, private citizen or government tyranny.
Absolutely.
So I also train my daughters to, you got to do what you got to do. The females, no matter what, tend to get raped, and to have that happen to even one of my daughters would kill me. Certainly, Alex, with your daughters, you would feel the same that I feel, that it would absolutely rip my heart out. I can't take it. So I tell my daughters, you got to do what you got to do to protect yourself.
Absolutely. Well, it's key to go out and take a gun safety course and then get demystified and then store it properly, and that's just the way to go. I appreciate you calling in. My issue is this. I'm so busy that I grew up around guns, grew up around basic safety. 4 years old, you put some... there's different ways to do it, but you go out to Grandpa's house out at the farm, and they shoot a watermelon and say, now, you see this gun isn't a toy. You see what it just did. And then they take you out in bird season and shoot some birds, quail, dove, and say, you see what that did to a bird. This is when you're 4 years old. And then they set you down with a Folgers coffee can. I can't tell you how many people have been trained the same way, with a 410, and you shoot it. And then you're taught, now, you don't touch this unless you're told you can touch it, and then you're taught the basic safety, and you're taken out 5, 6, 7 times a year, because I lived in the city. I always loved to go shooting. And by the time you're 11 or 12 years old, I was shooting bullseye, free hand with a .243 at 300 yards. And that's an example of just basic marksman training that made Americans in warfare feared all over the world, and it's good to see that culture coming back. But I'll be honest with you, I keep my guns locked up in a gun safe, and I've got some instant access pistol safes, and my 9-year-old and 10-year-old are good shots now, and they know you just don't touch guns. And even the BB guns, are in the garage in a locked up area. They get permission to get those out, and they're not allowed to really use them when other kids come over, because I don't know how they're going to act around them. And that's my basic safety, but I should probably even do a better job of that. And explain to me the penal code on children and guns.
Yeah, you have Penal Code Section 46.13.
That's in Texas, but it varies.
Right, it does vary from state to state. But the way it works is, if your child gets access to a firearm, no one's injured, it's not discharged, you're going to get off easy, you'll get charged with a Class C misdemeanor. But if your child gets access to a firearm, is discharged, someone's injured, you're going to get charged with a Class A misdemeanor. If your child gets access to your firearm and kills himself, shoots himself, or kills another one of your kids, we will give you, the state of Texas will give you 7 days to go and bury your child before they come and arrest you and charge you with the Class A. And what you just touched on right now is parenting. What a concept, raising your kids. I remember when I was a little kid, my mother would say to me, you better be in the house before the sun goes down. Don't let your shadow catch you. And she's not talking about the street lights. It's about parenting. Right now you have babies raising babies. And that's going to be part of the problem. If people focus on parenting and raising their children, then we're going to have some of these other issues that take place.
And now the state's coming in saying, don't worry about parenting, we'll do it. They do an even worse job.
Right.
I mean, I'm really worried about society degenerating, and government wants us all to live like in New York or Chicago in these crime capitals. It's so sad. Also, they can dominate us and use the crime wave as an excuse to take over even more. Right. Let's talk to Teresa in North Carolina. You're on the air.
Hi, I just have a simple question for you. I saw on the news feed today on Facebook, and I looked at the article, but I had to get on the road really fast. It didn't seem to be a spoof article or anything. They said that the government had ordered 30,000 guillotines. Is that true, and why would the government order 30,000 guillotines?
Well, the United States has not really historically used the guillotine on execution. They've used hanging, the gas chamber, lethal injection, electric chair, things like that. This is and I'm glad you called in about this, this is a perennial thing I've heard for 18 years on air. It's a rumor that got out that a truck tumped over. It's always in Kansas or Texas or New York. And it was martial law signs and guillotines. And it's this whole thing of the Antichrist is going to use guillotines to chop Christians' heads off. And maybe that's going to happen someday. My point is it's an urban legend. Just like this National Stabilization NESARA Act, that's another made-up thing. I mean, there are good people in government, and there are white hats, as they call them, but still, that doesn't, it's just one of these urban legends. That is a true urban legend. Now, what they're buying is 2 billion hollow point rounds and other rounds and 7,000 armored vehicles and anti-mine vehicles, and they're training to take on gun owners, conservatives, libertarians, and they're trying as best they can to divide us along race, religion, and everything else so the government can play the part of the referee. And they're trying to get all sorts of just religious war, race war, social economic infighting while these big mega banks drain the country offshore. So that's their goal. Does that answer your question, Teresa?
Yeah, that answered my question. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. God bless. And don't feel bad that you called in about an urban legend. Okay? And it doesn't mean I'm the final say on that. But that's something I can officially say. To be clear, I'm saying I'm not the final say on everything. Okay? So don't just believe me. But on that, I can say that's definitive. This whole guillotine thing. And people are like, you're covering up the guillotines. Show me the proof. Frank in New York, you're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Hi, Alex. There's actually an interesting C-SPAN video which aired on C-SPAN in 1991. There was Jay Rockefeller was at a roast of Pappy Ken. Actually, Newt Gingrich was actually in the audience, in the crowd, and Jay Rockefeller was joking about the Trial Commission and Bilderberg. And the video is on YouTube. You just type Rockefeller roast into YouTube, and it comes up. It's like a 7-minute video.
I want to play that. Rockefeller roast, or is it Buchanan roast?
Just put Rockefeller roast, comes up. It's a 6-minute, you'll find it. It's a 7-minute video. I'll play it like a little bit right now. You hear it's pretty bizarre. It's a very bizarre. He says the most bizarre. He confesses the New World Order. He says about if you looked up the Bilderberg in '91, you could hardly find anything back in the day. I mean, it was very difficult. Very few people were on it, and so it was his mainstream. I'll play like a little video right now. Audio.
Kid, playing with blocks. Pat Buchanan and I both had that experience together. His were like the ones you saw in the movie, little round square blocks, colored ABC. Mine tended to be called 48th Street, 49th Street, 5th Avenue.
There's actually an interesting C-SPAN video which aired on.
Well, they talked about Pat running for president, and if he did that, I would be very supportive.
Hello?
Yes, very funny, and I heard you turned up your computer, so you were delayed 30 seconds. But yeah, we'll find that clip played on the nightly news tonight. Sounds very interesting. I was unaware of that.
He also says we own the politicians. The presidency has a bad reputation, and because the elite own the presidency and own the politicians. He actually said that in the roast of Pappy Ken in 1991. This is so bizarre. Like he said, so you come to the president. Why don't you join us, New World Order, and have total power? He says. It's very strange.
Well, we're going to play that tonight. That's big. So much stuff's being dug up now and put on the web. How do you think the establishment, Michael's going to get away with all this corruption as more and more stuff comes out?
Hopefully the people will, stay educated and actually hold their feet to the fire and say, hey, we're not going to take this anymore. We want, like I said, the federal government to be transparent.
Sure.
The federal government is not designed to always take care of all our problems.
Sure.
We don't always need the federal government we don't need Big Brother to always take care of us. We need to take care of it. We can take care of ourselves.
We're going to go to more calls. Sounds like an American idea. How extreme. We're going to go to more calls here before the show ends in about 15 minutes or 14 minutes or so. But I wanted to ask you, because I always intend to do this and I don't do it, but you're actually on my way to work and things. You're actually in South Austin, closer to where I live. I live south of Austin. How fast could I come do the concealed carry class? Because I've sent off to the DPS before, gotten my packet like twice in the last decade, but never went and did it. And I've had other people that are friends of mine that are concealed carry saying, I'll give you a private class, I'll accelerate it all, whatever. But I almost don't even want that. I want to go get the course because it's always good to learn.
If you wait until September, the law is going to change where it's only going to be 4 hours instead of the 10 hours like it is now. So if you wait until then, you'll be able to take a 4-hour course, do your shooting portion, and then right now you can do it online. You go online to the DPS website, fill out the application, and pay the fee, and then we'll turn in your paperwork for you.
Who has the best concealed carry law in the country?
I think, I like Vermont. I actually like Vermont. You know why?
That's what I thought was the best.
Because in the state of Vermont, everyone can carry openly or concealed without a license. It's constitutional carry. So Vermont is going to be the best state.
And again, I'm not liking the fact that it's a law you go do this for concealed carry because it kind of turns it right into a privilege. But I also do kind of like that this much training's going in because my dad's done it. I've read the course online. It's really good. I mean, I think it instills gun culture in people and common law in people.
Well, put your trust in people because if you offer them a class, then they will actually come and take a class rather than saying the government says it's mandatory and it's something that you have to do.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I disagree with making you do it, but then at least it's good to make the government do something good.
Right.
I mean, it's not perfect, but at least something good's happening out of it.
Right. And people are actually learning the laws. They actually are willing to take more classes to learn safety. And
I've also been told that the police treat concealed carry people with more respect.
Oh, yeah. You pull that your driver's license and your concealed handgun license out and show it to the officer, and the officer knows that you've gone through a thorough background check.
Absolutely. I just wish the police on average were as good. I know a lot of them really are good, but I wish they were as good as concealed carry people on average, because there's definitely bad ones hiding in there. Just ask Serpico, who we're getting on soon. More calls coming up. Final segment with Michael Cargill. And rebroadcast, you're going to be able to hear Viggo Mortensen, listener of the show, on the show. Amazing interview on a bunch of subjects. And I want to jam in a few final calls here. But I think I asked a question before we went to break, and we were going to come back and talk about it, and now I don't remember. Michael, let me ask you this briefly. What is the best thing? Ever since I was a kid, my dad would say, the old pump shotgun, just because, for whatever reason, he didn't buy a semi-auto with, like, bird shot in it. It was his idea that was something that wouldn't kill neighbors necessarily as easily if he shot at somebody and then it went out the wall, or it wouldn't kill somebody on the other side of the wall. And then he would also have a handgun with those sheer safety slugs the air marshals would use. I mean, I think it's important people to also know when you're doing stuff in your house and you've got a gun for self-defense, what is that issue? If there's a burglar with a gun and your kids' bedrooms are down there, what do you do?
Anything that you're proficient in would be good to have for home protection. But I tell people to have a plan, just like taking a trip on an airplane. You take a trip on an airplane, they go over the security plan. In the event there's an emergency, we lose cabin pressure, this is going to drop down from the ceiling, put it over your mouth, assist the person sitting next to you. In the event there's a water landing, your seat cushion, we use the flotation device.
But you don't want to use a 50 cal in your house.
No, you do not. But you want to have a plan. And in my house, we actually have a safe room, a room that I want everyone to make it inside if something was to happen inside my home. If the alarm goes off, something that, alerts us that someone's inside the home, I want everyone to make it into the safe room because I don't want to accidentally shoot one of my loved ones. So whatever that you're proficient with, that is what you use. If you're
No, that's totally smart. And people say we're living in fear. No, we're living in power.
Right.
We're living informed. We're not here just going to roll over.
Right. You don't want to be like those people in a certain part of town where someone knocked on the door at 7:30, 7:45 in the evening, and then someone opened the door and two guys went inside and robbed them with tasers and stun guns. You don't want to be like that person. You don't want to be like the person that worked at home at 12 noon in the afternoon on the second floor of his house. He has his bedroom. He has his office. At 12 noon, he stepped in the hallway out of his office and looked to his left, and the guy stepped out of his bedroom. You don't want to be like that person, And then he, looked at the guy and said, "What are you doing in my house?" And the guy ran to get his gun, came back out on the stairwell there in the hallway, looked downstairs, and a separate guy came out of his kitchen. You want to be that guy. You want to have a plan of what you're going to do to protect yourself.
I would have to be starving to death to break in somebody's house. I just do not. And then I just come knock on the door and beg for the food. I do not get this breaking in people's houses.
Yeah, these are the stories that we get in my class. That people tell me, some of the things that they've experienced. So we go over a security plan. I give them a plan of what they're going to do. I want to make sure they protect them and their family. They have a safe room. So that way everyone in their family is accounted for. So and actually, have cameras, around my house. I'll help people set up security cameras for their home, and we'll have a little monitor where they can look at their cameras, see exactly where that intruder is, and
cameras are so cheap now. This isn't Big Brother's cameras. These are ours. I got cameras as well. It's good to be out of town and be able to look and see what's going on.
Oh, yes. I can look at my home. I can look at my shop. I can look at my parents' home. I can look at my sister's home because she's single right now. I can look at all their cameras and control their alarm systems from my cell phone. It's about, me helping them say...
You know what? I got a little... Oh, my gosh. I can't believe it. That the show has gone an hour into overdrive, and I can't get to all these people. Real fast, Aaron in Nevada, you want to talk about car bombing evidence. Go ahead. All right, Aaron. Go ahead, Aaron. All right, Aaron's gone, and I can't go to Ronnie, Ralph, Clark, and Dean. I apologize. Again, I want to thank Michael Cargill for coming in, Viggo Mortensen, the crew, everybody doing a great job. Humanity needs to come together, because humans like to be in gangs or clubs. Let's have a gang of liberty and freedom and justice and true equality, and let's go to the stars together. That's the answer to 1984 to 1776 worldwide. My guest will be on the Nightly News tonight, 7 o'clock Central.